How do you reply to people in chat? You just say their names, just like in real life. Though in real life you have context clues. What's up, people? Speaking of poor socialization, oh my god. Fucking Chainsaw Man chapter tomorrow. What's it gonna be? Nobody knows. Everyone's waiting. I'm waiting. Yeah, we early. What about it? Headache? Why would I have a headache? You know, I haven't really had persistent headaches ever since I got that nice pillow from Mattress Firm or whatever the fuck that place is. You usually do. No, 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 no. Me always having a headache is an old meme. That's from like 3 or 4 years ago. Open the window. I did open the window. The house is well ventilated, okay? I pumped lots of nice, fresh oxygen in here. Your hair looks wet. Well, I just added styling product. I'm sure it'll look more normal soon. Any update in the CO2 machine thingy? I don't have it plugged in right now. I think that we have an appropriate amount of carbon dioxide in the room today, in my opinion. I think. Nice jacket, but it doesn't look your style, TBH. I really, I love the confidence. I often think sometimes, I mean, people don't have enough confidence these days, but every once in a while you people display an audacity that I have to assume is confidence because the alternative would be uncharitable. Then I would be assuming you're just autistically incapable of understanding how you come across. This is an Acne Studios jacket and a tribute to my first trip to New York City that I took as an anniversary present with my beautiful partner. No, birthday present with my beautiful partner and had a wonderful time with them. So, no, you know what? I think it is my style because it's infused with love. Want to see a pathetic and childish tweet of a Dutch far-right politician sucking up to Trump? No, I do not. But I appreciate you asking. Bro looks like he's about to go mudding in his Chevy Tahoe. Bro just saying shit. Is that true? Oversized bombers? Is that the mudding uniform? You're just tossing it at a wall. You're just tossing it at the damn wall. Looks like camo, yeah? People have been wearing military clothes for ages. I'm not a mudding guy. No, I'm sorry. Got a text from my beautiful partner. Says the jacket looks great in me. Who are you to judge? Oh, man. Twitter was down for a second. Can you imagine Twitter being down while I stream? How would I get any news across to you guys? That's where I get everything. That's crazy. This testimony's too funny? Is it? Or is it not funny enough? Oh, Afroman stuff. I see, I see. I'm sure somebody sent this already. Think it's clickbait. Clickbait from fortune.com? Maybe. Possibly. What is this? It's a black screen. The Treasury just declared the U.S. insolvent. The media missed it. Okay. The U.S. government is insolvent. That's not hyperbole. It's the conclusion drawn directly from the Treasury Department's own consolidated financial statements for fiscal year 2025. The numbers, $6 trillion in assets against $48 trillion in total liabilities. Does not include the unfunded. What does this have to do with it being insolvent? A country can't run out of money. This sounds like a bit. Are we doing a bit? What 136 trillion looks like in your living room? This is retarded. The finances of a household and of a nation are two very different things. Nations print their own currency. They don't deal with money the same way that everything else does. So what is this? What Fortune? I just slop? Didn't realize Fortune had gotten this bad. How does this mean we're insolvent? What is it? So the Fed can't print money anymore? No. The Government Accountability Office issued a disclaimer of opinions on the U.S. government's financial year 2025 financial statements. The 29th consecutive year it's been unable to determine whether it's fairly this means nothing. It is clickbait. It is clickbait. It is clickbait. Yeah. The money printer broke? No, the money printer is still functioning. For now. Fortune was always a neolib rag. Yeah, but this is just stupid. This has nothing to do with neoliberalism. It's just stupid. Smotrick wants to annex southern Lebanon. Well, shit, I could have told you that. Israel's far-right finance minister says the Litani River must be the new Israeli border as attacks in Lebanon ramp up. And then after that, they'll have to establish a buffer presence north of the Litani River to protect south of the Litani River. Yeah. Do you have an alt on Twitter you post on? The one linked in the website doesn't post much. Wink! Blah, 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 they're evil, we get it. Yeah, an unfortunate consequence of the age of nihilism is that the people who are in charge are evil, but they're not really, like, hiding it. So there's not that much to say about it, you know? Like, I bet, you know when I would have wanted to be a live streamer? Nixon and Watergate. That would have been interesting. Because back then, people had a higher level of trust in the government, and the government was, by and large, a lot more competent. So it would have been this, like, day-by-day update, really daring. So, you know, and obviously Nixon can't admit to what he's done. I mean, that would be devastating. He couldn't do that. He'll be impeached, you know? That would have been very engaging. Unfortunately, now it's just you wake up, Israel says, we're going to do another Holocaust, and everyone in the Western media sphere goes, we'll pretend we didn't hear that. On the other hand, they may have assassinated you. Yeah, COINTELPRO did some work. That's true. That's true. Probably wouldn't have gotten me, though. They would have recognized that I'm no real threat. All I'm doing is driving up rice and beans futures, you know? Frederick Hampton, he posed a threat. This guy's just, you know, he's like a subsidization program for American farmers. It's a big old hole in the ground. Israeli attacks have killed at least 1,000 people. Nice. Well, 3,000 others have been wounded. More than 1.2 million displaced. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It's a little bit difficult to concoct an analysis when Israel is just unambiguously saying, yeah, we're invading and conquering and annexing land and expelling its residents. And literally the whole Western world is like, yeah, we're not. We're going to pretend this isn't happening. We're going to pretend this is self-defense. You know? It is the Greater Israel Project. They're meant to take all of Lebanon. They're not going to stop with southern Lebanon. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep going. Doesn't the whole world recognize Lebanon as a real country? Yeah, but also, like, the whole world is enslaved by capital, so... Well, no, I mean, Israel is widely hated outside the Western, you know, the Western world, right? It's a pretty narrow range of countries that defend it no matter what. Took out the bridge. Yeah, I saw this. Very important bridge. Very big bomb. Does Lebanon have any allies? It's not really relevant whether or not they do, because the government of Lebanon is neutered. It's a eunuch government. Hezbollah is the actual functional military and political force in southern Lebanon, and that is what Israel's currently duking it out with. Lebanon can't really do anything, you know? Wonder how long Israel can keep this going before their neighbors decide they're not scared of their nukes anymore. Yeah, I mean, eventually that's what it's going to come to. It's again, like, as I keep saying, I know it's very boring. He keeps saying the same stuff. It's either they win or they're stopped, and eventually they're going to lose, which means eventually someone's going to stop them. Like, it's borderline tautology, you know? If they can't win, and the only alternative to them winning is them losing, and the only way they're losing is if they're stopped, then eventually someone's going to stop them. It's guaranteed to happen. It's just a matter of who and when. Preferably you do it early. Preferably you would have done it like 80 years ago, but, you know. Hezbollah is/was heavily supported by Iran. God bless them. Hezbollah formed in resistance, in opposition to the last time that Israel invaded Lebanon, you know. Hezbollah's entire existence was born out of Israel invading Lebanon. They weren't a pre-existing Islamic regime. It was a defensive militia formed to oppose them the last time they did this. In literally any other framing geopolitically, they would be referred to as freedom fighters. But because they're Muslim and they're against Israel, we treat them as terrorists. Was that cluster munitions? I don't know, probably. We know that Israel uses cluster munitions and white phosphorus pretty regularly, so. Hezbollah also does a lot of social services in the absence of a strong government. Yeah, same as Hamas. I think them doing terrorism also contributes to them being called terrorists. Don't be naive. Israel does more state-sponsored terror in the region than any other government, or in fact, every government combined. But we don't, you know, they don't get called terrorists. Civilians get hurt in all conflicts. There are no exceptions. The question ultimately is, you know, to what extent is what you're doing a matter of self-defense, and to what extent is it a matter of aggression? And for Israel, it's pretty much all aggression, and for Hezbollah, it's largely self-defense. Why is the Lebanese government neutered? A lot of reasons. Cuck to Israel, kind of forced to be... It's a weirdly DEI government. Lebanon's a very multicultural state, a lot of different minority groups, and many of them are given official representation within the government, which has led to a weird gridlock where, like... I'm trying to think of a comparison. Imagine if the New York City mayorship was replaced with a council, and the council was filled with every representative of every ethnic group in New York City. And then in order for anything to happen, they had to agree on a thing. You know what I mean? You would have like a you would not have like a very effective government. And then there's the fact that there are like massive schisms in the population. And then there's the fact that it's a very poor country. There's like it's a lot of stuff. It's just not a functioning government. It was more or less like created as a proxy for the West. Similar to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't know much about their government, but if what you're describing is accurate, then yes, there'd be a similarity. All could have been prevented if Israel didn't do a Nakba. Yeah, well, good luck convincing them not to. Why is this guy blocked? I'm nosy. Oh, I don't know. I usually block annoying clickbait news channels because I don't want to see them unless I'm like deliberately linked them, because they're usually super annoying and often dishonest. But this did happen, this bombing. So, you know, that's not fake. Lebanon fucks hard. This really sucks, man. Yeah, it's not great. Unfortunately, the only hope for Lebanon right now is Hezbollah insurgency can do some work, but not enough. It's basically up to Iran. Iran, by doing enormous amounts of damage to regional infrastructure, has the ability to stop Israel. If Iran commits itself to the task, it could probably destroy a significant amount of Israel's power production, and that would drive the country to a halt. It would be disastrous for the region, but, you know, maybe Israel should stop declaring war on every neighboring country, you know, in my opinion. It's true, yeah. Israel did withdraw from Lebanon when they invaded post-October 7th, but if they're more committed to it this time, who knows? I don't know. The average IDF soldier might be a baby-killing coward, but they are still numerous and do have big weapons. Big advanced weaponry. There was an interesting interview on this topic from Democracy Now! Today. On what topic specifically? Smotrix advocating for annexation. I know we're literally looking at that article right now. You linked the article that we're looking at. You can see it on screen. I didn't click this from you. I clicked this 20 minutes ago. You fool. I've already depicted you. No. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Quarter of Lebanon's population's been displaced. Yep. Quarter of the whole population of an entire country. All for no goddamn reason. Got in a few minutes ago. I forgive you. Anyway, I guess the point of it is that Iran is their only hope, so you can take from that what you will. Unlike Israel, every other force in the region is fighting a war for survival. Israel isn't. Maybe they were in the past, 6-Day War or the lead up to it. But now that is not the case. There's no real threat of Israel being overtaken and annexed. They have nukes, so it's every other country in the region that's fighting a war for survival. Even countries like Qatar or the UAE are fighting more of a war for their survival than Israel is at this point. Settler violence in the West Bank's getting really bad. Yeah. They're doing big organized pogroms, burning houses, raping people, stealing their stuff. The military's just standing by and letting it happen. No mainstream media coverage, of course. Of course not. They're enslaved by Israel. Does Lebanon not have a government? Sure, they have Hezbollah. I guarantee you the average person has not heard about the invasion of Lebanon. If you only listen to Western media, then all you hear is Israel being under attack by its neighbors. That's all you get, really. You might hear about mistreatment of the Gaza situation or like impropriety or mistakes in targeting, but apart from that, no. The full horror that Israel's unleashed in the Middle East is not something that you would get just watching CNN or even MSNBC. Yeah, the Lebanon cabinet positions are divided up by religion as a compromise between the groups. For example, president of Lebanon must be a Maronite Christian, and if anything changes, it's civil war. That is extremely funny. It's like a government that is designed to be ineffective, Have the Zionists lost yet? Well, they are going to hell. Israel is invading Lebanon, and nobody is even talking about it. But wouldn't firing a nuke into the other Middle Eastern territories also destroy Israel? Yeah, that's why Israel's nuclear doctrine is, if we think we're done, we're taking everyone else out with us, It's unfortunate because it's any sane, reasonable person, would come to the conclusion that Israel needs to be invaded and occupied right now. But if we do, they nuke everything, so. Have they said that? Israel? Yeah, it's part of their Samson doctrine. It's their nuclear policy. Funny that they would have one, considering they haven't officially acknowledged they even have nuclear weapons, but we all know they do, so, So would they nuke Israel itself in the Samson situation? Well, that is what Samson did in the Bible, I mean, you can take from it what you want. It's an untested policy, but it's based on biblical myth. He nuked people? Yes, that's why he was so strong. A topic I'd find really interesting to get your take on would be how to get Zionists rhetorically to take their masks off. Oh, that's easy. Just ask them how they feel about Gaza. That's it. It doesn't take very long. You know, Tucker Carlson did this. It's super easy, actually. Most Zionists are frothing at the mouth lunatics. I'm not talking about your like normie, unengaged liberal Zionist, or like Jew in America, whatever. I mean people who are committed politically to the project of Zionism. It takes basically nothing. They're insane. They're completely insane. It's like asking any random Israeli on the street, like how they feel about um, the Arab population of Israel. It takes like nothing to get them to admit. Not to defend Israel, but isn't the Samson option the case for all nuclear powers? Absolutely not. No, 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 no. Because the deliberate ambiguity of Israel's position is the exact problem. There's mutually assured destruction, which is one thing. If one country launches nukes at you, you launch at them. That's different. Okay, that's a deterrent policy. Israel's is if they feel like they're losing a war, even like it's a mass suicide pact where they bring down everyone around them, yeah, flipping the table basically, if they feel like they're losing or if they think they can't win or whatever. It's ambiguous. That's the whole point. The mutually assured destruction idea is relatively simple and straightforward. It's a deterrent from using nukes. But in Israel's case, right, like, okay, what about beating the IDF? What if you beat the IDF? What if you pushed Israel back to its 1948 borders? Keep in mind that the expansion of many of their settlements are illegal. They're like illegal expansion. What if all you're doing is enforcing a UN mandate? The whole point is you don't know. It's a country with nukes that has said that if they think it's time to flip the table, they fire nukes at everyone, and it's run by religious zealots. Fun fact, the Samson option was established by the Lehi, the Zionist terror group that wanted to ally with the Nazis. That is a fun fact, yeah. They're all Lehi now? A little bit. Insane German Zionist? Ugh. I don't want to watch this. I'm not. These fucking crazy, crazy people. Yeah, dude. Even the Wikipedia page is look at this. When the Lehi militant group, that's the aforementioned Zionist militia that wanted to ally with the Nazis, were discussing ways to assassinate General Evelyn Barker, the British Army commander in Mandatory Palestine. A young woman volunteered to do the assassination as a suicide bombing. She said, "Let my soul die with the Philistines," as a reference to the Samson story in the Hebrew Bible. Other members of the group rejected her offer. Israel refuses to confirm or deny it has nuclear weapons or to describe how it would use them, a policy of deliberate ambiguity known as nuclear ambiguity or nuclear opacity. This has made it difficult for anyone outside the Israeli government to describe the country's two-nuclear policy definitely, while still allowing Israel to influence the perception, strategies, and actions of others in the government. However, over the years, some Israeli leaders have publicly acknowledged their country's nuclear capacity. Yay. In his 2008 book, The Culture of War, Martin van Krivel, a professor of military history at Israel's Hebrew University, wrote that since Gates admitted Israel had nuclear weapons, any talk of Israel's nuclear weapons in Israel can lead to arrest, trial, and imprisonment. Thus, Israeli commanders talk in euphemisms such as doomsday weapons and the Samson option. As early as 1976, the CIA believed Israel possessed 10 to 20 nuclear weapons. By 2021, it is estimated the numbers increased to approximately 90. Kenneth Brower has estimated as many 400 nuclear weapons. Cool. In the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Arab forces were overwhelming Israeli forces, and Prime Minister Golda Meir authorized a nuclear alert and ordered 13 atomic bombs be readied for use by missiles and aircraft. The Israeli ambassador informed President Richard Nixon that, quote, very serious conclusions may occur if the United States did not lift airlift supplies. Nixon complied. This is seen by some commentators on the subject to be the first threat of the use of the Samson option. It's crazy. Even back in 73, man. Israeli ambassador was like, essentially, if you don't do this for us, we're taking the Middle East down with us. Suicide bomber ass country? Yep. Yep, yep, yep. I'm struggling to see an outcome where they're not going to use a nuke in the next few decades. Me too, which is why I think that stopping Israel and our support of them is basically like the highest goal on Earth right now. It's up there with climate change. It's a rogue state with nuclear weapons that has a doctrine and a population willing to kill everyone and die doing it. It's like a potentially a greater global threat than Nazis posed. They didn't have nukes. Leahy were the first ones to use car bombs in the Middle East. Muslim extremists learned it from them. I guess all those claims that leftists have made that Israelis have no culture were wrong. How do you stop them without using the nukes? I'll let you know if I ever find out, buddy. Like, I think if Israel nuked the Middle East, the West would provide diplomatic cover. If nuclear weapons were used right now in the Middle East, we would undeniably provide cover for them. 100%, without a doubt. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. There is no fucking way the entire media and political class, all of them in lockstep, are like, well, that's too far. We're done. It's been fun. It's been fun defending them through every war crime, every violation of the UN Charter, all of it. But now, finally, we're done. No, they would pretend it was an Iranian bomb, or they would say it was a mistake, or they would just justify it. It would probably be all three at once. They would deny or defend. You'd get probably the same confused sentiment from both sides, or even from the same person, you know? In 2002, the LA Times published an opinion piece by Louisiana State University professor David Perlmutter, who stated, Israel's been building nuclear weapons for 30 years. The Jews understand what passive and powerless acceptance of doom has meant for them in the past, and they've insured against it. Masada was not an example to follow. It hurt the Romans not a whit. But Samson and Gaza? What would serve the Jew-hating world better in repayment for thousands of years of massacres but a nuclear winter? Or invite all those tut-tutting European statesmen and peace activists to join us in the ovens? For the first time in history, a people facing extermination while the world either cackles or looks away, unlike the Armenians, Tibetans, and World War II European Jews or Rwandans, have the power to destroy the world. The ultimate justice? Fascinating. Louisiana State University professor, you know? It's a psychopathy that we have permitted to infiltrate like the high, like it's just with normal, it's just like allowed. You couldn't be this kind, you couldn't be this openly omnicidal in any other setting. I think even like Christian evangelicals would have to tone it down at this level, you know? Why are Zionists obsessed with calling Holocaust victims weak? Because they're fascists. Because they're fascists. They do that though, quite a bit. Yeah. They perpetuate the Nazi lie that the reason Jews were led successfully en masse to their death was because Jews were weak and cowardly. This is obviously anti-Semitic, but Zionists repeat this, freely. In 2003, a military historian, Martin van Creveld, thought the Second Intifada, then in progress, threatened Israel's existence. We possess several hundred atomic warheads and rockets and can launch them at targets in all directions, perhaps even at Rome. Why Rome? Most European capitals are targets for our Air Force. Let me quote General Moshe Dayan. Israel must be like a mad dog, too dangerous to bother. I consider it all hopeless at this point. We shall have tried to prevent things from coming to that, if at all possible. Our armed forces, however, are not the 30th strongest in the world, but rather the second or third. We have the capability to take the world down with us, and I can assure you that will happen before Israel goes under. Military historian, again, an academic. You know, you'd expect academics to be a little bit more distant, but this kind of like obscene frothing at the mouth, desire to kill all people, you know, seems to be, it's wild that it's allowed to exist in academia. I guess like normally this kind of bloodthirst is reserved for people outside of academia. You know what I mean? News pundits, maybe. And even then, that's very bad. Yeah, academics tend not to speak this way. But for Zionists? What do you do with mad dogs, by the way? Go on his wiki page. He has a weird-sounding book on women. Jeez fucking Christ. Anti-fascist phrenological theory proven correct yet again. Author of 33 books. Jesus Christ. The Privileged Sex. He argues the systematic oppression of women, as claimed by feminists, is a myth unsupported by any serious data, and that across modern cultures, women tend to enjoy more social protections and privileges than men do. Of course. Fascist, man. Every fucking time. All terrible reads, I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt. I really hope sometime in my lifetime we have like a international rebuking of Zionism and we can expel them from at least academic life. Because to me, like, this would be, just imagine if in academia, in any other circle. Remember that Holocaust historian who was like a frothing at the mouth, bloodthirsty Zionist as well? That woman who served as the envoy to combat anti-Semitism for the Biden administration? The one who thought anti-Semitism could never actually be defeated because the Goyim were like permanently, unavoidably jealous of the Jews? That woman? Like, if there was an academic who was well respected, but then demonstrated the level of insane revanchist bloodthirst demonstrated here, they would be immediately removed from the academic community. Could you imagine like a well-respected, White House acknowledged journalist of any other community, faith, ethnicity, race, whatever else, who just openly acknowledged that they thought that the world should end if their group faced threat? Like, what an insane, just an insane fucking thing to believe. Evangelicals? Nope, because evangelicals aren't in academia. That's kind of my point. The crazy end the world evangelicals are very much not in academia. That's the whole point. They're not there. You don't see, oh yeah, he's a PhD and respected historian, and also he thinks that Jesus Christ is coming back after we nuke the Middle East or whatever. That's not an intersection of people that exists, really. I'm sure there are some. I'm sorry you grew up like that. Shrek love forever. Zionists have the credentials of being given tenure by the MIC. Yeah, I also think that, like, to an extent, people just don't take this very seriously. Like Zionists have been insane for a long time, but I'm reminded of like there are a bunch of recorded interactions between Nixon and Kissinger, and basically all of them play out the same way, with Nixon being drunk and treating like making Jew jokes at Kissinger. You know, oh Jew, oh do your, you know, you're the money man, whatever. Oh, you're so finicky, da da da. Like all of these, he just is very casually racist and very casually anti-Semitic, but he never took Kissinger seriously, which is odd because Kissinger was a really smart and powerful person. You know, I mean, he wasn't the president, but he was Henry Kissinger. I feel like that's been the attitude for WASP intellectuals for a long time. You know what I mean? That they know the Zionists are crazy, but because Israel's always been this like military base, this pet project that we've defended for largely selfish reasons, we've never taken it seriously. Like the attitudes like, oh, so there are some the crazy Jews and they want to, you know, they think they're the only ones who have ever suffered and they think they're better than everyone else. Whatever. They treat it the same way that one might treat like a revanchism or ethno supremacy in like an African tribe or in like a you know, like Syrians or something, or Armenia and Azerbaijan or Serbia, like this. Oh, it's an amusing thing, like you treat it the way that Americans treat Balkan racism. Oh, haha, look at how they fight. um should have taken it more seriously. Nixon was arrogant, yeah, but he wasn't scared of Kissinger. Was Kissinger a pick me? Oh my God, yes. Kissinger was a huge pick me. I think he literally wrote like he regretted having been born a Jew. He was like really self-hating about being Jewish, which again really rubs up negatively against the JQ rhetoric, right? Kissinger was without a question the most powerful Jewish person on earth while he was Secretary of State. Why would he be self-defacing then? You know? He said he'd be anti-Semitic if he wasn't Jewish. Yeah. No. The rare anti-Jewish Zionist Jew. Was Kissinger Zionist? I'm actually not sure. He might have supported Israel as like a state project, but I really don't think that Kissinger was that committed to the ideology of a Jewish homeland. I don't think he was. I could be wrong on that though. Very fascinating person, very evil man, but a lot smarter than the evil men we have in charge today. Probably liked it as an extension of American power. Yeah. Like he liked it as a bulwark for our interest in the Middle East, but he was not ideologically committed. Which, I mean, there is a difference. Yeah, he was committed ideologically to having an American military base in the Middle East. Yeah, at least that's my memory of it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we're I think you're underestimating the amount of leeway Israel has been given throughout the years. I don't think so. I think they've been given an ungodly amount of leeway. Like an insane. No, for sure. I think the real red pill though is that basically any ethnic group would have become Israel if they were given the same special treatment that we gave Israel. You know what I mean? Like any persecuted ethnic minority that formed their own country, and then America gave them basically infinite money and power and blocked any consequences to their actions. Like any other group would have done the like would have become the exact same thing. We've like maximized the likelihood of those conditions becoming apparent. It could have been anyone. It could have been the fucking Irish. Liberia? Liberia was awful, but yeah, good point. Imagine Liberia, except we gave them like $3 trillion in weapons or something. That would have been fucking crazy. Like the Neo Hotep hyper American junta taken over half of Africa or something. It's just an insane timeline. Oh, there you go. I love tofu. Why is it even called anti-Semitic as opposed to just racism? Well, we use the term Islamophobic, you know. Anyway, we need to move on. There's like actually important stuff to cover. I guess this is pretty important. The end of the world's a little more. It's pretty important, I think, you know, in my opinion. One second. What do I title this? Also, anti-Semitism has a rich specific history. That's true. Yeah, rich. Maybe it sounds a little bit more normatively positive than it should, but yeah, no, it does. Anti-Semitism might be the most specific form of bigotry in human history. I can't think of a comparison. Excuse me. Does have some deep lore. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but like it's really difficult to talk about anti-Semitism, which is a real problem, obviously. The Zionists have corrupted the discourse so much because now even an acknowledgement of anti-Semitism feels like it's a bulwark to the points that Zionists make. They insist that Jews are the most persecuted community in the history of the world because that somehow exempts them from the moral, you know, the moral wrongdoing that they engage in nonstop. Which is a non sequitur, of course, you know, but it's the same reason why I'm pretty blasé about what, say, Iran is doing, bombing Israel right now. Because for one, Israel's done 1,000 times that to other groups. So, you know, a little bit of a boomerang effect there. But also, like, I'm not going to pretend that Israel's persecuted. They're just not. They're the most insanely spoiled country on earth. Biden gave them everything, man. Biden gave them money. Biden gave them weapons. Remember when Biden withheld the sale of exactly one type of bomb to Israel? The 2,000-pound bomb, a weapon so large and so indiscriminate in its damage that it was impossible to use it without incurring massive civilian casualties. And they flipped their fucking shit. Biden was willing to give them all kinds of weapons, but they specifically wanted the 2,000-pound bomb to maximize how many civilians they could vaporize in the refugee tent camps that they had sent people to, you know? Yeah, they said Biden was pro-Hamas. They needed the 2,000-pound bomb. Why do so many Zionists want to end the world? What the fuck are you all doing right now? Why is goy a bannable phrase? Because it's too funny, which means that you all will use it into the ground and make my chat indistinguishable from like any Nazi chat. I don't think that it's inherently anti-Semitic to say goy and like like you're being derogatory to Zionists or whatever, because Zionists are bigoted against us Gentiles for the most part, at least the Jewish supremacist group of Zionists. But like I don't want you guys to run that into the ground because I can make specific calls about my language. You guys can't. You're all dumb. You'll run it down as you are now. I mean, you've no, as a group, no group of people has self-control. Can we say Gentiles? If you overuse it, I'll ban that too. It's literally just like anti-Semitism is on the rise because Epsteinite ideology is taking hold. Israel is getting what it wants. Parentheses, more anti-Semitism. You know, I just don't want, you know, you can't. What's Gentiles? It means the same thing as goy. I don't think the audience is a problem. There's just too much overlap. It's one of the things with like anti-Semitism being so specific. There's nothing anti-Semitic fundamentally about saying shekels or oive. Nothing inherently. But like, if there was a chat that was full of people going goy goy goy, shekels shekels shekels, like whatever, you would instantly know what the disposition of that chat was. So unfortunately, by virtue of the kind of like adjacency of perceptual bigotry, you have to be careful about that. Which right now you guys are inviting me to crack down even harder because you're doing exactly what I said you would do. You know, like you're so you test the limits. That's the problem. You people think, listen, here's my tip to you, okay? If you want to be funny, you don't need these words. You don't. You just don't. You don't need these words. You know, it's not an important part of your lexicon. It's not necessary. These are the tools of the enemy, yeah. I'm getting closer to 2 pull-ups in a row. I've got my pull-up bar every day. I take a crack at it morning, noon, and night. And I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger. One second. I got lucky. I was looking at YouTube chat at just the right time. Behind near the beginning, but holy shit, that jacket looks like shit. Yes. The ultimate. There's a dedicated like permaban button in YouTube chat moderation. Hide user on this channel. I get to, it's like a fucking lightning bolt from the sky, you know? Short positions in Brent crude oil futures by producers, merchants, professors, and commercial users are up to a record 193 billion. Yeah. Right now, the reason that the Western oil market has not skyrocketed in price per barrel of oil is because an enormous amount of money, like a truly, like incomprehensibly large amount of money, is being dumped into lowering its price, shorting it. The specifics on this are a little bit beyond me, I'll be honest. There's a lot of financial fuckery that other people can speak to more clearly, but here's a good summary. Short positions have doubled since the start of the year. That's interesting. The reason this is being done is to artificially lower the price. Keep in mind, okay, the price that somebody is willing to pay for a barrel of oil is a social construct, right? A person could pay $1. A person could pay $1 million. Whatever, I don't know. I'm sure you could pay any amount. You could pay negative money. You could go into that. That happened during COVID. Some barrels of oil were worth negative money. They'd pay you to take them. But at the end of the day, it's a physical commodity, which means that no matter how much you fuck with the price, and oh boy, is the price being fucked with right now. You want to see it? Look at that. Take a look at this. Massive drop this morning. Huge amount, over 100 billion in shorts put in. A deliberate effort to depress the price. I mean, it has been fluctuating like crazy. Very, very, very abnormal. The goal here, of course, is to keep us from feeling the hurt for as long as possible. Though it's not helping with fuel prices. The problem, though, is, again, this is a real commodity. Oil is a physical thing that exists in the real world. The scarcity of oil is therefore not something that you can work around with clever financial maneuvering. You know, you can short the position as much as you want, but the lack of oil will eventually hit you. And of course, the goal here isn't just to delay the consequences of our war in the Middle East. It is also to inside trade like a motherfucker. We are inside. This is the level of insider trading that has never been seen, I think, in human history. I would have to, I don't know, a financial historian would have to weigh in on it. 2 minutes before that Iran post, the post where Trump said that he's extending the 48-hour ultimatum for Iran to a 5-day ultimatum, which coincidentally would mean that it ends after markets close on Friday. Really interesting. 48 hours, which begins on a Friday, and or on a Saturday, but then 5 days extended, which ends on a Friday after markets closed. Really interesting stuff. Somebody purchased 42,000 lots in a single trade. This trade would have made a profit of $500 million in half an hour for whoever bought this. Again, this level of insider trading is unprecedented in human history. The specific post that he made, by the way, that led to this massive drop in the price, hence the futures, is this. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Iran responded after this, saying that they had not had any talks with the U.S. So that's we're in a very weird position where we are checking in with the government of Iran to see whether or not the president is lying to us. But that's unironically where we're at right now. There are no peace talks. Iran has restated its claim, as it's been consistent on, that in order for this war to end, not only will all sanctions on Iran need to end, but also we will need to pay them reparations for the damage that we've done. I imagine at this point it would be pretty substantial reparations. So, in other words, the war right now for Trump and for the people around him is a financial instrument that is being used to fleece as much money out of the market as possible. Every time the market goes up and down and up and down, and he's done this many times, he did it with tariffs too, he's doing it now with the war, people close to Trump who are insider trading make billions of dollars because they short at the right time, they buy in at the right time, they sell high and they buy low over and over again. But there is a problem with this strategy. So far, it seems like this strategy of ignoring... Oh, yeah, but you can see down here. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings. There are no ongoing meetings. No meetings are ongoing. Why is the market even responding at this point? Because, again, the market is trying to be the guy doing the insider trading, you know? You look at the market and you see irrationality. It's the system that's irrational. The system here is incentivizing people to try to follow the curve of market manipulation so they can also get a piece of the pie. By and large, this doesn't work. The people who are profiting overwhelmingly are the ones with insider information, not retail investors chasing their coattails. This is the same thing that happened with people trying to make it big off of meme coins, crypto scams, NFTs. People who were buying into them immediately understood that it was all a pump and dump. They just wanted to be on the pump side rather than the dump side. People didn't buy into meme coins because they thought it was an innovative new currency. They did it because they'd seen other people get rich off rug pulls with meme coins. It's a grifter economy. You know, everyone is just trying to be the guy who fucks over everyone else. No one actually believes in this. The people whose, investments or divestments are causing market fluctuations, they don't actually think it's changing the war. They just want to also make the money off the market manipulation. Why does anyone even play the market if they're not on the inside? That's a great question. Why do people play at casinos? That's the answer. It's as simple as that. Wall Street's a casino. Anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is lying to you or is uninformed. The House always wins. These people, in this case, the House is Trump's administration, people with insider information, they always win. You might get lucky and chase the coattails. Maybe. You might ambulance chase your way to skipping a red light or two. But that's it. Speaking of pump and dump, did you see how somebody placed a $1.5 billion bet on stocks going up and dumped $200 million in oil 5 minutes before it happened? Yep. Yes, I saw that one too. Really, really incredible. Again, I don't think there's any historical precedent for this level of insider trading. Just 5 minutes before Trump's announcement to halt the attacks in Iran, massive trades reportedly hit the market. In one move, $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures was bought, while $200 million in oil futures was sold. The orders were larger than 4 to 6 times larger than anything else at the time. The traders seemingly made huge gains. Enormous amount of money. Huge, 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 huge. There is one problem with this strategy, like I alluded to before. In spite of how fake everything seems, in spite of all of the financial manipulation and the seeming illusory nature of prices, oil is real. war is real, and Iran is not ending the war. Iran has made it very, very clear that their conditions for the end of this conflict involve concessions that the United States and Israel are probably not willing to make, namely an end to sanctions and a reparations for the damages done. In all likelihood, they probably also would require Israel to stop invading Lebanon. That also seems like a good prerequisite, in my opinion. And America and Israel are not going to see these demands. So far, they're being more persistent than others expect. What we're doing is building a bubble. The longer we try to hold off on acknowledging the increased oil prices, the harder it's going to hit. Think of it like a margin call, you know? You push down the price of oil over and over and over and over again, but it's like a rubber band pulling. The real price of oil, as reflected by the actual scarcity of the real resource, is going up and up and up and up and up. And you keep putting money into the market, you keep dipping, you keep shorting it, and it goes down. But eventually, the amount of money that it will take to continue to pretend that oil prices haven't gone up will be unsustainable. Nobody will be willing to put that much money in, and they will rubber band back up, probably actually even higher than the normal price. Like, they will rubber band beyond where the price has been pushed to. It will hit very, very quickly. What I'm describing is, and again, I'm not a financial expert, and I'm not going to pretend that I am, but I have seen other people talk about this. I've read the Financial Times articles, I've read the Semaphore articles. My understanding is that what I'm describing right now is basically inevitable. By trying to manipulate the price of oil in the futures market for the Western oil market, we basically guaranteeing that we experience this rubber banding effect. So, you know, it's not great. In a way, Iran is now the shot caller for this conflict. America doesn't want to really wage war. America just wants to use this conflict as a rubber band that they can pump and dump over. Israel, of course, wants mass death, as they are wont to do. Iran is the only one that really has the power to decide how long this war goes on. And they want it to keep going. What they're essentially doing is that, you know, Trump keeps like indecisively wavering between what like degree of conflict we're in, and Iran is consistently saying, no, we're still in a war. You bombed us, and we're going to keep bombing you. And they're still bombing. They're still bombing. Iran live UA map. So the linchpin is Karg Island? No. Even if Karg Island was conquered, which would be a ruinous affair for us, it would not stop Iran. In truth, nothing can stop Iran. It seems like Iran is just prepared to fight us. Really, truly prepared. Unlike us, the brittle-boned, thin-skinned Americanoids, who are not prepared for death and suffering, the people of Iran have long been prepared for both, and so they are willing to fight through with us. Much as Russia underestimated the resolve of Ukraine, so too have we underestimated the resolve of Iran, and we will suffer greatly for it. Yes, I saw. Lindsey Graham comparing the hypothetical invasion of Karg Island to Iwo Jima. Yes. Do you think it's more likely we end up using the Marines to help Israel in Lebanon? No. I don't think we're going to help Israel with Lebanon. Will Iran controlling the Strait curb Israel a little, or does Israel just not care? Israel just wants mass death. I don't know if that's going to stop them. It seems like Iran has the ability to remind America and Israel that the war is real, though. And what they would do in order to facilitate that outcome is they would start striking power facilities, as Trump threatened to do with them. Power facilities, desalination plants, whatever they need to do to bring the region to a halt. If they did this, potentially millions could die. The strikes on desalination plants in particular could lead to maybe the world's worst drought crisis ever, depending on how widespread the damage is. All of this is a consequence of Israel and America's behavior. Did you hear about Israel torturing a baby to try to get a guy to confess? You mean like putting the cigarette out and stabbing the 1-year-old to get the father to confess to a crime? Yes, I heard about that. The most moral IDF behavior yet recorded. Israel's used dogs to rape prisoners, bro. They are the devil. That's true. That's true. Is there any possible universe where this war has a good outcome? Well, in my mind, America and Israel are totally, totally detached from reality. America is just using this as an instrument of financial manipulation, which is very American, and Israel just wants mass death. You know, Israel is just they're just like salivating over the oceans of blood that they're going to spill. So in my opinion, the actual best case scenario here moving forward is that Iran does so much overwhelming damage to the infrastructure in Israel and its allied Gulf state nations that they permanently destroy Israel's ambitions for greater Israel. Because the problem is, and again, like this is my perspective, but I've been clear on it and consistent. My perspective is that Israel and America, as things are right now, won't stop. They'll just keep doing it over and over and over again. Again, Israel calls it mowing the grass, but like they have demonstrated for years, for decades, that this violence that they inflict on the Middle East is a non-stop affair. And it seems like they're only getting more emboldened over time, less attached to reality. So from my perspective, again, it's they win or they're stopped. Who will stop them? Iran has the potential now to stop them, I think, I hope, without prompting Israel to use nuclear weapons. That's my hope. But what happens if Iran backs down now and 5 years down the line, Israel is taking all of Lebanon plus the southern portion of Syria? Like, I'm actually asking, right? Like, genuinely. This is one of the reasons why I supported Ukraine against Russia, even as Russia threatened to use nuclear weapons. For one, I thought Russia was bluffing, which they were. And for two, what happens after Russia takes Ukraine? You think they're going to fucking stop there? What happens when you have like a expansionist, hyper-militarized, everyone's conscripted Russia now sharing a border with Poland? I know they already share a border with Poland right here, but I mean like real Russia, you know. You don't want that. You don't want that. You have to, when expansionist fascist empires start moving, you have to stop them as quickly as possible. You don't want them to build momentum. The more they build momentum, the fucking crazier they get. That's how I feel about it. So what happens 5 years, 10 years down the line, and Israel's taken all of Lebanon? American government media continue to defend every fucking thing they do, and they've taken southern Syria. What happens if Israel starts threatening Jordan, meaningfully threatening Jordan? Like, at what point does it stop? At what point does it stop? That's what I fear. It's like how Germany should have been stopped before they took Czechland. Yeah. Like, obviously, we know what appeasement does. Appeasement just emboldens them until they act further. In my opinion. Beirut is a beautiful city. Maybe one day I'll get to visit it. What's about to happen? Israel's going to bomb Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay, hold your horses. If Israel destroys the Al-Aqsa Mosque, then yes, you can start digging a hole to hide in. If that mosque gets destroyed, then yes, you can start buy like quick pour cement and start like making yourself a bunker. Can we make draft jokes if that happens? I will allow that. People can make draft jokes if they go after the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The what history lesson, please? The part of the whole Christian, Jewish, biblical prophecy of evangelism and of Jesus Christ returning is that the third temple will be built upon the mount, and that would mean the destruction of the mosque currently there. Basically, like the doomsday prophecy is preceded by the construction of the third temple. So if they start making moves to build it, that means that Israeli leadership is deliberately trying to bring about what to Christian evangelicals would be the end of the world. Also, the bombing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque would make Muslims really, really mad. Why hasn't Israel done it anyway? Okay, think of it this way. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is so important that even Israel hasn't bombed it. Think of it that way. Like, bombing it would be so catastrophic for relations between Israel and every Muslim country that is their neighbor, and for the world, that they haven't done it yet. That's the gist of it. Even they have withheld. The child not even Epstein has touched. That's crazy. The Ottoman Empire would reform just to invade Israel. The people would be strapping suicide vests on and charging directly at Tel Aviv from like the southernmost corner of Saudi Arabia and the northernmost corner of Turkey. They would be it would invite a level of international condemnation. Even that feels like too weak of a word. Even Biden would have a bad thing to say about them. Doubt it. Anyway, I guess that's my thesis for this long rambling statement. It's that Iran is not letting Trump end the war on his terms, and God bless them for that. Because an end on America or Israel's terms to this conflict would just be a forever conflict. There's no real end. It's kind of like how Western media keeps saying dumb shit like 600 people dead in bombings since Israeli ceasefire. You know, in Lebanon, they did a ceasefire, Israel just kept bombing. In Gaza, they did a ceasefire, Israel just kept bombing. No end to the bombing, ever, ever, ever. If that's the kind of ceasefire the West wants to impose on Iran, Iran has to turn up the heat. Literally, like, the world depends on it. I mean this very seriously. What terms will Iran accept? They said they want reparations for damages and an end to all sanctions. They probably want a few other things too, like an end to the invasion of Lebanon. I think that's pretty reasonable. Like, all three of those demands align with humanitarian concerns. Why isn't Iran going full scorched earth? I don't know. You ask them. Probably because they want to keep a lot in reserve. Their goal is to win out in the long run. They are more prepared to die than the average Israeli civilian. Do you think the attack on the British base was a false flag by Israel? Well, they've done many false flags before, but it's kind of immaterial to me because Israel is so evil that I don't really care, I guess. Like, it wouldn't change my opinion of Israel. Did you know that Israel did the bombing to rope people into war with Iran? Okay. I don't know. I guess it doesn't, like, prescriptively, it doesn't really change anything. I'll blame them for it anyway. I mean, they are at fault for it anyway. The only reason that base got bombed was because America and Israel launched a completely unjustified attack on Iran. All of this is because of Israel and America. Did anyone else see that? Yes, you saw my cat jumping up in the desk. How could one virtue signal anti-Zionism while avoiding anti-Semitism? Listen, it's a distinction that's easily maintained if you're principled and knowledgeable, but Zionists will always accuse you of being anti-Semitic. Just as the most hysterical deniers of Nazi war crimes back in the 40s accused people of being anti-Germanic, you will never be able to escape their accusations. The only hope, you speak factually about the world and what Israel is doing, and people will call you anti-Semitic for saying stuff like what happened after October 7th was a genocide, and you just have to not let that phase you in any way, you know? If you're a woman and a feminist, people will call you man-hating. You know, it's just the way of the world. Like evil people will try to find terms to hurt you. Of course, you know, you also have to meet this criteria, not actually be anti-Semitic, which I think is incredibly easy. If you like the idea that what is happening right now is a byproduct of any innate characteristics or broader conspiracy is just unsupported by the available evidence. It's very, very easy to explain the world if you just take a simple historical materialist, you know, outlook on the relationship between Israeli and American power. That being said, right now, I'm not going to lie. As a direct consequence of Israel and Republicans and the Democrats, you know, the single loudest anti-Zionist voice we have in the United States right now is Tucker fucking Carlson. It seems like anti-Semitism is not something that the right seeks to avoid. I don't really care that much about accusations of left anti-Semitism. It seems like a falteringly tiny fraction of the overall. Like I guess, you know, it's very much like people being anti-Germanic during World War II, you know, like Kalugi plan shit or whatever the fuck it was called. Is it bad to be anti-Germanic? I guess. I mean, I don't think that Germanic people are innately evil or innately Nazis or whatever, but I don't really know if that's my highest priority at this moment. At the very least, I think you should be more, you know, suspect of people who throw those accusations around willy-nilly. Was some Allied propaganda a bit over the top? Yeah, but like, okay. You know? I mean, that's true. Yeah, I guess just I don't know. Do I think every Germanic person's a literal barbarian? No. I do think we should like bomb Dresden though. That's yeah, I ain't reading all that, okay? Um free the camps, bomb Dresden, whatever, type shit. The anti-Japanese propaganda was wild, though. Yeah, I ain't got time for all that. I'm too busy piloting the Enola Gay. Let me send this over to my editors. How did I? Oh, I black screened because I hadn't done that yet. There you go. I fixed it. I fixed the black screen. Let me send this over. One moment. There we go. Woke plane, the Enola Gay. It really was. Numerically, it has to be the most anti-fascist plane ever flown. I'm sorry, we don't have to do atomic bomb propaganda here, even if it's funny sometimes. Parentheses all the time. There we go. Hey, Vosh, just popping in to say I finally left my rural red state and moved to Washington, D.C., and holy shit, the city really is just so much better in every way possible. It's actually crazy. Yeah. Yeah, not to get on the ruroid tangent too much, but yeah, for sure. My great uncle helped build a runway for the Enola Gay. Do you think the left would be as mad about the Enola Gay and the bombings if they happened to Germany? Just wondering. Do you think it's like, do you think the persistence of people arguing over whether or not it was right to bomb Japan might be influenced a little bit by people just projecting like the mantle of minority group onto Japan, even though they were just as bad, if not worse, than the Nazis? I don't know. We don't have to worry about it right now. If we nuked Hamburg, nobody would give a fuck. Okay, having been to their airport, I would agree. Yeah. There were leftists in the US pre-war praising Japan in public to the point the Japanese government got annoyed and sent them death threats. That's so fucking based from the Japanese government. Oh, man. It's good to know that people would have called me like a NATO shill or whatever the equivalent would be. I don't know. Fucking Allied powers shill. If I was around in 1945 being like, I think we should bomb Tokyo a fifth time. Me, like, looking at the newspaper. Clearly I don't think they've had enough, lads. Please, more bats with bombs attached. We used to have such cool military ideas. Now all of our ideas are just, what if we made drones that flew farther? Fucked up. Significant movement is underway from the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force based in Kaunas, Middle East, comprised of 35 C-17 fighters. Origins. Still moving equipment around. Did you see the OnlyFans owner died? Didn't he die at like 40? You said the CCP is fascistic, but is China fascist? I think that China is a fascist state, but very lightly so, which I know sounds kind of stupid or ham hockey, but that's also how labels work, right? The labels, fascist, capitalist, whatever, describe an incredibly broad range of expression in terms of how your systems develop. I think that China is fascistic, but I think like minimally so. It is getting worse with time though. So maybe like in 10 years it'll be even more so than it is, you know? Like the American government right now is openly fascist. America is fascistic, but very lightly so, because we still do have like a democracy that technically holds power, whereas they don't in China, you know, not really. But we're getting bad real quick, so who the fuck knows where we're going to be in 10 years, you know? It's totalitarian. China, in some respects, yes. It's weird. The Chinese government maintains a very high level of care with some kinds of surveillance and policing, and is a lot more laissez-faire in other respects. Like, they definitely don't rise to the level of the Soviet Union, North Korea, or Nazi Germany, but they're definitely, like... They definitely are building out the infrastructure for it, you know? They could get there. They could get there, yeah, for sure. And they're 100% a police state. At least they build stuff? Yeah. Steve Bannon, ICE at airports can be a test case to get to really perfect ICE's involvement in the midterms. Can somebody explain to me why Steve Bannon's job is just going to the media and telling everyone the evil thing that the administration's trying to do? He keeps doing, he's done this like 5 times. I thought the point of being a political strategist was to like play it close to your chest. Why does he keep just saying it, you know? What a dumb idea. They're definitely doing it though. Like, this is 100% what they're attempting to do. They have deployed ICE to airports to shore up a deficiency that is not being shored up by the presence of ICE agents. They're just trying to normalize deploying them to manage, you know, supply line disasters. It's because ICE is paid and TSA is not. It's got to make TSA agents feel like shit. To just not be getting paid. Especially because the median TSA agent is a black woman. So then you have this fucking Latin chud breathing down your neck 24/7. He's getting paid $150,000 a year. You're not getting paid anything. He's not doing anything except menacing people. Elon Musk offered to pay for TSA wages. Yeah, but he won't. He offers lots of shit. Is this due to the ICE deployment in airports? She could not provide her citizenship to the satisfaction of agents and was violently taken to ICE custody.
Leave her alone! Fucking, what are you doing?
Leave her alone!
I hope you're so fucking proud of yourselves, you fucking assholes. You're on video now, too. Yeah. Shame on you. You fucking un-American pieces of shit.
On the first day, well, ICE agents have always been present at airports. I don't know if the people doing the arrest right here are part of the new deployment. At least they're not wearing their fucking masks. Hup, hup, hup. Meal Team 6, inbound. Hup, 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 hup. Not beating the allegations that ICE is a racialized militia that is a part of a war against white people by Latin people, you know? It's the revenge. Dog, look at my white supremacist Gestapo. Fuentes was prophetic. It's like all of the comments people made about Fuentes, they really led us to this moment. They prepared us for what we would have to believe and what we would have to say.
First Amendment right. Really can't do anything. Have a good day. Have a good day. Go on, Neil. 2-6.
They don't even have a drip. They have never had drip. $5D chess?
What idea was that? To put ICE in the airport.
We're dealing really.
Whose idea was it?
Mine. That was mine.
And can I ask you?
That was like the paperclip. You know the story of the paperclip? 182 years ago, a man discovered the paperclip. It was so simple, and everybody that looked at it say, "Why didn't I think of that?" ICE was my idea. I called. First person I called was Tom Homan. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "I think it's great." Then I saw today there was some masks on. I didn't think the masks were appropriate. I put out a statement and I asked them, would it be possible to take off the mask? Because they should wear a mask when they're dealing with the murderers and the thugs let into our country.
If Trump is responsible for ICE agents deployed to airports not wearing masks, which they aren't by and large, that's actually really funny and really good for us, I think. Get as many photographs as you can, lads. Follow them around. It's like the paperclip. Yeah, look at them, dude. They're so fucking awkward. Taylor Lorenz about to drop a huge rant. Oh my god, did you see Taylor Lorenz with the Cuba flotilla? With the masks thing? Oh my god. I'm not oh my god.
Jackie, you want to say
What happened? I don't want to talk about. Was she passing out masks to starving Cuba? No, she was like, if all the people doing this aid flotilla to Cuba, if you're not wearing a mask while interacting with Cubans, you're doing violence, you're murdering people or whatever. I don't remember the exact language. She's so obsessed with that point. I don't know why she does this, man. Does she think Cuba's an uncontacted tribe or something? Maybe.
Stop following us. We have a First Amendment right to do it, buddy. Stop following us. First Amendment right. Stop following us. First Amendment right. First Amendment right. You really can't do anything. You okay? Have a good day. Have a good day, fellas. Go on, Neil. 2-6.
Are they literally just walking around? What are they doing? Well, they're not doing. They literally can't do anything. They can't do a single thing. There's nothing they can do at an airport. They're just being paid to be there. They're just being sent there. I guess in addition to me also, Steve Bannon believe that this is just an effort on the part of the administration to normalize deploying ICE agents whenever there's a supply line issue, inefficient staffing, whatever else. You know, just any time you have an excuse, it's an attempt to get them there. And they're 100% going to try some shit during the midterms. 100%. Are they getting paid? Yes. ICE agents have been getting paid this whole time. TSA agents have not gotten a check in 6 weeks.
We can use what's happening with these ICE helping out at the airports. We can use this as a test run, as a test case to really perfect ICE's involvement in the 2026 midterm election, sir.
Close confidant of Epstein, obviously. Not just a regular you know, at Epstein's Island or whatever, close confidant with Epstein, close friends.
Yeah, I think we should have ICE agents at the polling places, because if you're an illegal alien, you can't vote, right? It's against the law. It's a federal crime for you to vote in federal elections. And so if you're an American citizen, you should be happy that ICE is there, because you're not going to have illegal aliens canceling out your vote.
Genuine question, is ICE police? They are law enforcement officers, and they are specifically allowed to arrest people on either as a matter of immediate necessity or for immigration charges. However, due to a variety of Supreme Court decisions, they've basically been made into a Gestapo force. They can do whatever they want. Like, it used to be they were just allowed to do immigration stuff, but then you have a bunch of rulings like, well, 100-mile border around the U.S. border or any airport. They've been given increasing levels of deference and authority, them and Border Patrol. So now they can basically act as police officers, even though they don't have the same training.
Pick them out of line. Pick them out of line starting today, and maybe the lines get shorter. Mike Davis, where do people go to get you, sir? Particularly your social media account.
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Follow us on social, MRD, DMIA. Take action. Save Act is the most important action item, and donate, but only what you can afford. And thank you, Steve, and the War Room Posse.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
the fucking music and the shout-outs. Dude, how far he's fallen.
you. We're going to come back with the Commander-in-Chief, what he had to say at the Sticks before getting on the plane to Memphis.
Jesus Christ.
The ICE agents at the airports to help out. And remember, they said they're not going to work the x-rays. It's too complicated. They're not trained for it. But they're trained to, wait for it, check IDs. That's why it's perfect training for the fall of 2026. This is why it's such a brilliant, this is another 5D chess move for President Trump. Let's get ICE.
He wants to be back on the inside of the admin so fucking badly. He wants it so badly.
Into the airports to help out to the lines. They can't work the machines. You know what to do? Just walk them down. Hey, we're going to speed things too. Can we check your IDs? That's what's going to happen in the fall of 26, because, folks, we're tired of having elections stolen. So ICE is going to be there in the fall of 26, just like they're in the airports today. So from the War Room, suck on that. Let's go to Memphis.
They will definitely try. Man, imagine you used to be a Trump admin insider and a close confidant of Epstein, and now you're doing plugs to a Twitter account from fucking Real America's Voice, the War Room. Why is Bannon not a part of this administration? Isn't it genuinely just because he's annoying? Like, he was in the first Trump admin. He was closer. He was a more respected confidant. But now it seems like he's not. I think it's just he's like just kind of ugly and stupid and sweaty. You know, he got arrested, went to jail for a bit, got out. Too frothing. The other advisors didn't like him. He does have this really bad habit of admitting that they're going to do the bad thing. You know? He does have that habit. He does look like he just climbed out of a wet hole. That's true. Get ready to see ICE at your local polling station. Polling booth? No. John Oliver reference? Lay Indy Gem. Didn't he steal border wall money? Yeah, but like, fraud is the name of the game for these people. That wouldn't get him out. That wouldn't get him out from the inside. LaGuardia crash underscores pressures on already strained air traffic control workforce. Yeah, apparently when this crash happened, LaGuardia Airport had one air traffic controller active. One. Just one. One air traffic controller at all of LaGuardia Airport. One single air traffic controller. Literally one guy. Just before an Air Canada jet collided with an airport fire truck, air traffic controllers at LaGuardia Airport, air traffic controller, were juggling a developing late-night emergency on the runway. UA flight had twice aborted takeoff and reported an odor coming from the back of the plane, but with no gate immediately... LaGuardia. With no gate immediately available, the pilot and controllers went back and forth over the radio as controllers tried to reach the airline and find a safe spot to put the plane. Audio recordings capture the chaotic convo as the cockpit conveyed growing urgency.
Who's the vehicle needed across the runway?
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, just stop there, please. Stop, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Delta 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jet 646. Jet 646, I see you collide with vehicle in pole position. I know you can't move.
Sadly, the 2 pilots are confirmed deceased, and notifications are being made by Air Canada's care.
Holy shit, I didn't realize that they'd lost both pilots. That's huge. Pilots are like an incredibly scarce and valuable resource. That's insane.
Air team at this time. The vehicle was responding to another aircraft operated by United that had reported an issue with odor.
Jesus. Linked to collision? Yeah, sure, why not? Okay, but how'd they not see the big-ass fire truck? You need air traffic controllers to manage stuff, man. It's like, okay, genuine question. Have you ever tried backing up a truck like an 18-wheeler? I have. It sucks. You got to be so well trained. Imagine that, but like 50 times larger. You need people telling you where to go. Bro, why can't you just see what's around you? Because I'm in a 10,000-ton coffin right now. I'm not viewing the plane from a third-person angle. Also, the air traffic controller was doing solo ground and air control. Yeah. When the fuck did you back up an 18-wheeler? Because I could. Because I had one. Because there was one there. What do you want? I feel bad for the air traffic controller because it's like probably not their fault. Yeesh. Shortage of 3,000 of them in the country right now. At a news conference Monday, Teleportation Secretary Sean Duffy, whose department oversees the FAA, declined to say how many controllers were on duty at LaGuardia Airport when the Canadian plane and the fire truck carrying Port Authority of New York and New Jersey police officers crossed paths. Did I say Teleportation Secretary? Well, that is a form of transportation. Transportation Secretary. Sorry, it's the carbon dioxide. Don't worry about it. But he described the airport's tower as generally well-staffed. Generally? That's crazy. I won't tell you how many air traffic controllers there were present at the time. I'll say that, like, on average, there are enough of them. On average, there were at least some air traffic controllers. He's willing to confirm there was at least one there. We know for a fact there was at least one there. What's that quote, or what's that saying? For most people, for most citizens of the Roman Empire, they only realized the empire had fallen when their local bridge collapsed and nobody showed up to fix it. That's kind of how I feel when I see stuff like this. It's like no one will ever announce that the American empire has fallen. It won't be like the Soviet Union where there's this big dramatic collapse. It'll just be one day you'll wake up and you'll look outside and you'll look at the cracks and the potholes in the road and the crumbling infrastructure, and you'll look at the crime and the graft and the vandalism, the overall poverty, and you'll think, wasn't it better than this at some point? Didn't this country used to have a future? I'll say this is pretty dramatic. I don't think it's dramatic at all. It's literally already happening. Most states or local municipal areas are already basically bankrupt. They don't make nearly enough money to even do basic infrastructural repair on the infrastructure that already exists. Our bridges are crumbling. It's kind of not a joke, or it's not really an exaggeration. It's just sort of what's already happening. Like, this is a massive crash because we aren't even providing sufficient air traffic controllers. And the reason that's not happening is because the number of air traffic controllers was cut and artificially depressed as part of a broader government austerity strategy that's being used to funnel more taxpayer money into the coffers of the wealthy. This is it, man. This is the shit you wake up and see. You're like, oh, I guess, For people asking why they didn't see the fire truck. Skill issue. I could do it. You shouldn't judge the prosperity of a country by its GDP or anything like that. A good litmus test is like, how much are they building and maintaining? How much are they doing? And how much are they promising to do? Like, if they can pull off big works, like maintaining infrastructure, building new infrastructure, and providing free healthcare or like pensions, that's like a big works project. That's a real thing in the real world. It's a sign of a functioning civilization. China, building out its infrastructure, both social and material, that's a sign of big infrastructure. America right now is not building anything. Nowhere in America is there a big works project. Nowhere in America is there massive, rapid expansion, The most we get compared to that is like, I don't know, in the Austin area, a bunch of skyscrapers have popped up to take advantage of the tech boom there as people fled the relatively expensive, San Franciscan tech boom, right? That's it. It's like, yeah, we get data centers and we get ugly glass and steel skyscrapers that are occupied temporarily by workers and, H-1B visa hires. And then within 5 years, they're all emptied because nobody drives to work anymore. The scam industry is booming. That is true. Hey, we're finally going to finish the D-line expansion here in LA. Yeah. You mean the one that goes to Westwood? Yeah, good luck. That's been 10 years coming, and how many more? Is there any Western country that has really well-funded municipalities? Europe is better on average than America is because less of their money goes to the top 1%. I would say probably Scandinavian countries. I don't know, the Netherlands. France has a very impressive, pensioner pay. Probably too impressive in my opinion. I would say Spain, relative to the amount of money that is in Spain, like even available for them to use, they do pretty well. Whereas America does wretchedly poorly if you take, in relation to what we do and how much money we have. Spain does pretty good. But they don't have that much money, so, Imagine trying to build something like the Golden Gate Bridge in modern day times. Well, you don't have to. Golden Gate Bridge net cost. When they built a suicide net around the Golden Gate Bridge for some fucking reason, it cost $400 million. Oh, hold on. They're saying $224 million. I guess that was overestimated. $224 million. $224 million to put nets up around a bridge. You know how many lives you could save by putting $224 million into like homelessness, housing development? Are you against a suicide net? Yes. They're really dumb. For one, they're macabre. For two, they'll just jump off something else. Who's saved by this? What? They would just jump off something else if they were going to kill themselves. Also, why not put the $224 million to something else? Why did it cost so much? Same reason everything costs so much in this country. Permits, legal rights, environmental review, and contractors fleece the government for every cent they can. On every level, there are grifters stepping in to make everything more expensive. Old lady with laptop. Yeah, old lady with laptop. You're contradicting yourself by inferring Spain is lower because they don't have a huge pool of banking and credit. No. Spain just doesn't have much money. I'm not saying that Spain is underfinancialized. I'm saying that Spain does not have much money moving around. So the fact that they're able to do so much with the amount they have is pretty impressive. If Spain kept up the proportional social and infrastructural spending that it does right now, but you made its economy the size of Germany's, Spain would be a utopia. A utopia. German elites artificially make us poor? Yep, for sure. The Golden Gate Bridge itself cost $35 million to build between 1933 and 1937. Or approximately $1.5 billion in modern dollars. So it only took us about 1/6 the cost of the bridge itself to put up nets along the side. You want to see what they look like? $224 million. And it cost us about $1.5 billion in modern dollars to build the Golden Gate Bridge. How much does it cost to build bridges nowadays? Cost to rebuild Baltimore Bridge. Let's say it's somewhat comparable. I don't know the relative lengths between the two. They're both really big bridges. Key bridge replacement costs soar as high as $5.2 billion, with completion expected by late 2030. I bet that'll get pushed back, and it's probably going to end up being more. $5.2 billion is just the estimate they put out now. How many projects finish at their estimated budget? Key bridge size. Just general metric here. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, height 350 feet, longest span 1,200 feet. No, the main span was 3,300 feet. Okay, 3,300 feet. And Golden Gate Bridge size, 3,300. About 1.7 miles long. So it took us $1.5 billion to build one of the most famous bridges in the world, which is nearly 2 miles long. But today, it's costing us around $5 billion, and that's an early estimate, to build a 3,000-foot-long bridge. This is what I mean. One day you will wake up and you will find the civilization you thought you lived in is no longer functioning. We can't even build infrastructure anymore. Why are we arguing about the suicide rates? We're talking about America's infrastructural decline. What stops people from just jumping off the fucking net? Nothing. I don't think you should build suicide netting around every piece of tall infrastructure. I think that's insane. If you want people to commit suicide less, put money into housing, drug crisis centers, whatever. There's a million ways you could have spent that money better. It was $228 million. They could have fucking built a revolutionary program in all of San Francisco that would have done incredible work. Instead, it got bled away and given to fucking fat contractors. Lawyers. Stop arguing about the fucking suicide rates. We're talking about the money. A friend of mine worked at Deutsche Bahn, and she told me that the projects are given a specific public funding, but the contractors demand more, so it gets rejected and the entire project starts again with the same result. Cool. What a functioning system. That's an unfair comparison because the Key Bridge also includes cost of removing everything, which is somehow more expensive than building the bridge itself. Okay, fine. Fine. If you really want to do this, fine. Let's think of another bridge. Recent large bridge projects in America. Let's make a comparison then, if you would prefer. Key projects include the $5.4 billion Gordie Howe International Bridge. How about that? $5.4 billion Gordie Howe International Bridge. This connects U.S. to Canada. How long is it? Total length? About 8,000 feet. So about the same length as the Golden Gate Bridge. Cost? 6.4 billion Canadian dollars project. And it's a toll bridge. Material costs have risen faster than average inflation, plus safety standards have increased. And yet, there are other countries that build things faster than us. The United States, along with other, mostly Anglo countries, Australia, Britain, Canada, have incredibly high construction costs, and all of these countries have massive housing crises. It's not good. Labor is the expensive part? Yeah, of course. But like contractors also deliberately take too long to drive up the... Remember, the Empire State Building was built in like, what, 18 months? The westbound versus eastbound Tacoma bridge highlights the cost difference. Okay, the westbound bridge, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, westbound, 1950, cost $18 million to construct. Holy fuck, imagine being able to build something like this for $18 million. Even if you took that to US dollars today, like 100 million, maybe 120, 140, nothing. For this? Insane. All right, let's compare that to the eastbound bridge. Under budget at $786 million. It's not just inflation, dog. 18 million. 800 million. $18, 1950 inflation. 18 in 1950 is worth 244 today. Ah, but what about to 2007? 1950 inflation versus 2007. 100 in 1950 had the same purchasing power as around 900 in 2007. So multiply it by 9. So 18 million, multiply that by 9. Fucking, what, let's just say 170 million because I'm gay and I can't do math. 170, 160 million versus 800 million. Steel was much cheaper due to way more steel mills in the USA operating at the time, pumping out steel. But that's part of the decline. Completely gutting our domestic production, so we have no way of building anything anymore. That's part of it. The reason we shut down American steel plants and American manufacturing was because financiers thought they could make more money off of every unit by producing it overseas, which is true for them. The new Bay Bridge took 11 years to build and cost $6.5 billion. Yeah. So we should be manufacturing domestically. I mean, to an extent, yeah, we should probably maintain a base of domestic production. But like the fact, all I'm doing is describing the conditions for imperial decline. If we can't build new infrastructure, build social projects, and we can't fucking maintain existing infrastructure, that's really, really, really bad. That's really, really, really bad. I don't see the entirety of the US ever building new cities in its lifetime. I guess we're almost at the point where the people old enough to remember are dead now, which is kind of sad, I think, really sad. But like if you were born in 1930, over the course of your young life into mid-adulthood, you saw America fucking explode. Like the transnational highway system and just massive bridges and skyscrapers, the whole world erupted. And America today is much wealthier than it was back then. The trains, the electrification of the entire country on every level, everything was building up, up, up. It seemed like anything was possible. And we had enormous wealth in this country. I don't know if you can hear them, but the cats are losing their mind. They're excited by that thought too. But now it's done. Like we're done building things. We're done even renewing things. The dream of a new constructive world where we can like build our future, it's gone. We don't have it anymore. The money isn't there. Well, it is. It's just we'd have to go and get it. And unfortunately, the people who would have to make that decision to go and get it are also the ones who have the money, so. Okay, 1 second. What are you on? What are you yapping about? All right, she's got opinions about the death of the American Empire. Oh, you were... We do not have the same number of workers per capita that we did prior to the 1970s. Even if we had the building costs down and we were willing to eat it on labor expense, we don't have the skilled people to build these things. Yeah, of course, but like, that was also a choice. We could have kept a permanently employed core of millions of people working engineering and construction all around the country. Think New Deal stuff, you know? There are always, 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 always jobs out there for people to build new things, to demolish old things, to repair cracks in the roads. We could have kept that going forever. It didn't, but instead we ceded all of it, you know? It's all gone now. Like this is the world we produced. Doesn't have to be like this. That's how Canada kept its workforce for nuclear power plants alive. Once they filled domestic demand, they started sending the workers overseas to build reactors in other countries. That's smart. Maybe a dumb question, but would tariffs have helped to keep the manufacturing domestic? I don't think tariffs are a good way. I think that you could probably employ tariffs for a kind of, to mandate a strategic reserve of domestic manufacturing for core industries like steel production. But I don't think tariffs would have necessarily solved the issue. I think the real problem is that the logic of capital basically guarantees that capital owners are going to shop for the best deal no matter what. And the age of international commerce always made the poorer country the better deal. You know, low fuel prices and a relatively safe and stable international shipping economy meant that you could build stuff in a foreign country and ship it over here for less than it cost to build it domestically, and that basically just guaranteed, like, that was it, right? That was Pandora's box. The only thing that you could really do to fix that is the thing that I think should happen, which is have a federally employed domestic core of workers. I don't want a bunch of people running around working for shit-ass construction companies. You know, every third American works for their, like, loser neighbor with a lifted pickup truck who's never worked a day in their life. They're for their dad's construction company. I want the government to employ these people, and there is always work. There's always work out there. There's always work. A grand public works project stretching across the entire country. We could keep it going forever. We have the money. We have the need. It's all there. Wouldn't that be more expensive than hiring private contractors? No. No, it would not. And you know what's really expensive? Letting the bridges collapse. Letting infrastructure fail. That's what's expensive. So the state is the employer of last resort? I'm a socialist, man. That's not my last resort. That's my first resort. The private market shouldn't be the default. The private market should be the luxuries and commodities economy that you defer to when you're done with the state mandating the necessities. Did you see Mamdani has filled 66,000 potholes as of March 20th? Yeah, he's been aura posting over it. Good for him. And good for New York. Holes filled. Well, anyway. Instead of making the state the employer, couldn't we add more scrutiny to which contractors get the contracts? No, that's ridiculous. It's a grifter economy, and it always has been. Why ask the sharks to tend to the aquarium? Why not just get humans to do it? Like, why would you want that? The government is perfectly capable of building stuff, you know? Wasn't a large part of these projects being so much cheaper the fact that it was poverty wages for the workers with no worker protection / insurance? That's part of it. But why does nobody ever talk about the other side of cost saving? We've built new technology in the past 100 years. The whole point of technology is that we make it easier and more efficient to do stuff. The constructive technology that we have today is fucking miles ahead of what they had to build the Empire State Building with. We can do it faster, we can do it better, we can do it cheaper, we can do it safer. And yet, everything costs 50 times more. Like, I agree, labor costs have risen, even proportional to inflation, and we have OSHA and stuff now. That's great. Workers should get OSHA. But we also have incredibly efficient machines. So, you know, why isn't that playing into the equation? You know, why isn't that having an effect on the outcome? How is it we keep getting more efficient, but things keep getting more expensive? We've made construction less expensive in theory. Why isn't it less expensive in practice? Yes. Look up the Dublin Children's Hospital cost scandal. It was originally supposed to cost 650 million euro and is set to cost 2.2 billion before completion. Oh, fun. I'm sure that's a whole thing on its own. No, anyway. Communist construction works in theory. Well, the Soviets were able to basically solve the housing crisis. The Soviets didn't have anywhere near as much money or technological technologically advanced equipment as us, but they were still able to build giant apartment blocks that house people for pretty cheap. Pretty cheap. One of the major issues for this is welders. Yeah, there aren't enough welders, but like there should be. There also aren't enough limestone carvers, you know? There aren't enough wrought iron workers. The productive and industrial capabilities of this country have been deliberately hamstringed by an elite cabal of people who make more money from borrowing, lending, and investing that money than they do from actually buying or selling anything. The Soviets literally brought entire regions out of feudalism using those public housing projects. You will never be more of a tanky than you are when you read about how the Soviets would go to these backwards peasant villages all across what used to be, you know, the empire, and would basically just force them to accept atheism and reject their barbaric social practices, caste systems, tribal hierarchies, and just accept that they're all Soviet citizens, equal in the eyes of the law. You will never be more tanky than when you read about that. And did they do atrocities? Yes, they did. But I ask you, you know, if you had to civilize West Virginia, would a few eggs not be broken? Think about it. I'm sure if you broke a few eggs in West Virginia, you'd go to prison for one of those stupid heartbeat laws. Good bit. Good bit. This is a slippery slope that can slide into what Israel is doing in Gaza really, really quickly. It can't because Palestinians are people. I'm talking about West Virginia. From Kozlov Strait of Hormuz ultimatum. Yeah, we talked about this. Iran answered Trump's threat to obliterate the country's power plants. It didn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz, with attacks in Israel Gulf South the weekend. Threats to respond in kind. We'll work on it, Grimy Worm. How can we elect a Congress or president to massive works projects? It's not a problem that you can solve with electoralism. As long as America is constricted by the superstructure of capital influence, no Congress and no president will ever do it. Because a public works project would require a restructuring of our economy away from financialization that would be absolutely unacceptable. You could never do a great works project in America without reinvesting in local infrastructure, local production, and there's no way to do that without either massive state subsidization slash decommodification, or like an overwhelming I guess rearrangement of laws pertaining to taxation and financialization. Didn't FDR do that? That was a different world. That's my whole fucking point. That's my whole point, man. Yes, FDR did it. After the worst depression the country has ever experienced, FDR did it. He got hate from Congress. He got hate from the capital class, but he did it. And back then, America was 1,000 times as industrious as it is today. Back then, we built shit. But electoralism worked previously? Yeah, that was before the entire country was owned by 5 people. Electoralism worked before capital controlled the country. Capital controls the country now. Did capital control the country back in 1930? Yeah, to an extent, sure. Not like they do now. Right now, our rapist pedophile president every day is lying to the media so that his friends can rug pull people over oil prices. Literally, we started a war with Iran so that the president could feed insider info to a cabal of insiders who are profiting from every Truth Social post he makes. We are so far beyond capital control. Bro has never heard of Standard Oil? Bro has heard of Standard Oil. I would argue still, the degree of capital control in Washington today is unimaginably greater than what FDR had to deal with. Hell, the MIC barely existed back then. That was mostly a post-World War II thing. So since FDR, the capital class has done everything possible to undermine the foundations that allowed policies like those to function? Yes, and now it's impossible. Nobody could do it. Mamdani couldn't do it. You could get Mamdani in the presidency and then 435 Mamdanis into Congress, and they still couldn't do it. There is a threshold has been passed where the only way to return to that America would be through revolutionary action. It's not possible to do through electoralism. Which is not good. Speaking of Standard Oil, Saudi Aramco cuts oil supply to Asia for the second month in April. Neat. I'm very distracted right now because Bagheera is still yowling. Bagheera! Hold on 1 second. Bagheera! I'm gonna eat you. Bagheera, if you want attention, you have to move into the room where people are so that the people can give you attention. Vosh basically saying it's just over, lol. It's over for electoralism reaching that, bringing us to that point. Yeah, for sure. But that doesn't mean it's over like forever. Revolutionary conditions will be forced on the United States by one of a number of things anyway. The collapse of the dollar, of the global economy, the America defaulting on its debt, nuclear war, climate change. There are tons of things that can force those conditions on the world and on this country without, you know, in a way that shakes things up. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you yelling? Why are you yelling? Wow, 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 wow. Why are you yelling? Is it because my beautiful partner is gone? Is it because they had a flight? Do you miss them? Me too. Do you miss them? Me. I miss them too. You're rumbling. You're rumbling. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rum, 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 rum. Ooh, she's so happy. You're so happy. Can I make you happy enough that you stop interrupting my stream? Is that allowed? Could you not interrupt my stream? Could you not go ow like that? Need to get you like a little you're furry. It's spring, you're shedding. Look at this cat. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Here, be free. I'll play with you later. I'm gonna give you a brushing or something. I like that hunting jacket. It's just a big bomber. I got it from Acne Studios. It was the one like big expensive piece that I got in New York when I visited last year. It's a big oversized bomber. See? Very like lollipop silhouette. You know what I mean? Like very broad shoulders. I'm a SOCDEM and anti-electoralism is cringe and LARPy IMO. That's fine. I think what I personally think is cringe and LARPy is when people pretend to be revolutionaries. I'm not. I'm a YouTube streamer. You guys aren't. You're YouTube stream watchers. What I'm saying, in my opinion, factually, is that systems have been put in place that make it functionally impossible for any elected government to shift the economy in a given direction. Not because it's impossible, but because the incentives through law, through even just norms, right? The regulation make it impossible. A lot of people can't even conceive of the nature of the disease we've contracted. Most Americans don't even know what financialization is. If you asked most Americans to say what they thought the big problem in this country was, why economically, like why we don't have enough money, why we can't build new things, I bet you 10 out of 10 would give you the wrong answer. You know? Like, if people can't even conceive of the answer, how are they going to vote in the right people? If they can't vote in the right people, how are they going to make those changes? What about the media? The media is completely aligned against this because they're owned by the capital class. So how are you going to overcome all of this? In my opinion, it can't be done. The system is too set. It's too concrete. There's no way around it. But, you know, it's bad for a reason. It's bad because it leads to bad outcomes. The bad outcomes destabilize things, and that destabilization produces revolutionary conditions. When I say revolutionary conditions, I don't mean like, you know, the Red Army storming DC or whatever the fuck. What I mean is that you are producing an environment where change comes not through procedure and policy, but rather through external force, you know, whether that be a popular movement, not necessarily a violent one, or that be, you know, like an actual Red Army type situation. It can take place in a variety of ways, but this has happened before, right? It's happened in America, right? There was no way legislatively for America to get rid of Britain, but then things got bad enough, and then there was a war, and then Britain was fought, and then now we're independent, you know? It's not, I'm not making like a prescriptive judgment, and I'm not saying that it would be good. I'm only saying like that is, I think that is a prerequisite, you know? Do you think strong unions are still needed? Yeah, but the average union voter's a chud. We need good union education here, beyond just whether or not we have unions. It seems like your behaviors do not match up with your analysis and predictions. Shouldn't we be forming lefty militia groups? If you want to, Fed, you're not getting, what are you trying to get from me? Nice fucking try. I've got the First Amendment on my side. I could make a joke right now and you couldn't get me for it, but it's not going to happen. I'm not even going to make that joke. What's this? You're asking why support people like Mamdani. The answer is because I still think good can be done electorally. All I've said is that the underlying conditions that I'm describing about over-financialization, I don't think those can be solved electorally. But Mamdani's demonstrating that there are still tons of things that you can solve with electoralism. It's not an all-or-nothing thing. You try to do good through electoralism, but you understand that there are limits to the, you know, to what that can achieve. 1 second. You're describing an inescapable underlying rot. Not fully inescapable, you know, but why is your name red? You were gifted a tier 2 sub, Piron. It's like the example you gave about climate change. Yes, exactly. That's a perfect example. I think that we should do what we can to prevent climate change. But at this point, I think climate collapse is inevitable. I don't think that any amount of action is going to stop that. Even the best case scenario still involves reaching a temperature high point, which causes enormous disruption to our environment. It's already happening, by the way. It's already happening. We just got off of like a record-setting massive heat wave across the United States, but it's going to get much worse, and that's going to happen no matter what. So there are things you can do to slow the rate at which they get worse, but the collapse is coming no matter what, climate-wise, and it's only going to get worse in our lifetimes. We won't live to see it really be fixed or get better, though maybe our children will. That might be nice. It's nice to hope. But I'm not arguing here against the process of participating to make things less bad. It's just like, no matter what you do, that's still happening. That's still happening. Yeah, there are degrees of severity. I track meteorology amateurishly. The upcoming El Nino might unironically be the hottest year on Earth by tenths of a degree Celsius. That would really suck, but you're not wrong. I saw some temperature charts on Twitter the other day. I forget their source, but it was a government. It was a government chart, or like a NSCA or whatever. But it showed the temperature spike for this year so far has been. I mean, a lot of people say apocalyptic. I often say apocalyptic, but I do mean it. I say it a lot, and I still mean it. Let me see if I can. Just a couple. If you look up temperature on Twitter, you always find the good ones. Here's a good one. La Jolla in San Diego recorded a water temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday on the last day of winter. That's warmer than the average water temperature in August. What is that? Water heat maps off the coast of California. Coral reefs are dying. The oceans are boiling at the end of winter. Death of all the insects. I'm trying to find that one specific chart that I was looking at. I'm trying to find that one chart. Maybe one of you guys could pull it for me, because I don't know what search terms to look for. But it was a annual temperature map chart that showed that so far in 2026, the line is way the fuck higher than it should be, even by the standards of the increasing global temperatures. Fuck insects? That's true, but they're like important and stuff. There's a 68% chance of a super El Nino by like late July. This will be catastrophic for the Midwest grain. It would cause excessive heat and dryness when we need moisture. Flooding in the southeast, floods in Australia. China, yeah. Do you mean a climate analyzer site? I forget. I'm sorry. I don't remember. I saw it like a week ago. Would you have considered the Great Depression a revolutionary moment? It would have been, had FDR not saved capitalism. I think that the Great Depression would have eventually produced enough social instability that it would have led to probably an American Nazi regime, or something comparable. The Great Depression did lead to the Nazi regime in Germany. In America, we wouldn't have had like the Nazis, but we would have probably had a militant, xenophobic, nationalist, like uniparty that would have probably destroyed the Constitution. FDR saved the country and capitalism by steering things on course very, very quickly with Keynesian economics. But, as much as he made things better in America, the underlying rot, capital, which was what caused the Great Depression, was still there. So, I hope people don't blame me for being ham-fisted. I say capital class really often, but it is true, It's just, it didn't used to be this straightforward. Sometimes I feel like I'm a crazy person if you don't step back and see how bad things have gotten. You know what I mean? Like imagine being a blind guy in Poland in 1939, and every day other people are explaining the news to you. And at some point you're like, dude, it can't all be the Nazis. You people sound crazy. I didn't even hear about the Nazis my whole life until a couple of years ago, and now they're responsible for everything. Every explosion I hear nearby, every friend of mine who's dead, you're blaming them for everything. And it's like, I know, man. I know. I understand. But sometimes it's true. This map? No, it's okay. You don't have to find the map. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry, Vosh, it would take a lot of bad faith for anyone reading anything sussy into capital class. It's not just about reading anything sussy into it, or not reading anything sussy into it. It's that I think people often fail to understand how constructed our environment is. Like, the only reason there is a massive nationwide rally against the existence of anthropogenic climate change is because of the lobbying and deliberate lying of a few fossil fuel executives that turned into a promotional campaign that it took root in the Republican Party. That's it. It's that literally a boardroom with a few men, and now the world will burn. In the long run, it's very possible that a majority of Earth's animal and plant species and billions of humans will be dead because of decisions made in a boardroom somewhere in Exxon's, corporate office in 1968. Sometimes it really is that simple. Many of our problems trace back to that. It can't be that simple. Yeah, but sometimes it really is. It's not that simple in the sense that other people weren't involved, but in the fundamental sense of a small group of wealthy people conspired to lie so they could make more money, and then money continued to, snowballing down a hill, and now a lot of people are dead and are gonna die. Oftentimes it's like that, I guarantee you, though no record of it exists, but I guarantee you that at some point in the very early days of the Nazi Party, a decision was made to target Jews. Like, anti-Semitism was a problem in Weimar Germany, but they were bigoted against lots of people. Like, the Nazis weren't only bigoted against Jews. Anti-Semitism existed, but it wasn't the only kind of bigotry. At some point, they had to make a decision. Which minority scapegoat were they going to use as an excuse, And they could have gone with a few. They could have gone with the Polish, if they wanted to. They could have gone with some groups. Others could have said it was homosexuals. They talked about queers, disabled, so on. But they focused on Jews. And that was a decision they made. And that decision probably had its roots, some level, in one meeting. I'm not to say that all of anti-Semitism comes from one meeting, only that, sometimes these massive, massive historical shifts, you can sort of trace them to very simple, I wouldn't say innocuous, but initially like minimal decisions. Thank you, Oak Reader. No, they were all pathologically obsessed with Jews. They didn't choose, they genuinely believed. That's not true. They were obsessed with Jews, but the decision to use them as a scapegoat was just that, a decision. There's always a decision. There's always a decision. No, the Kaiser scapegoated them before. I feel like you guys are misunderstanding the point of what I'm saying here. I think you guys are acting like I'm saying anti-Semitism was invented by the Nazis, which is not what I said. There are historical undercurrents and social forces that conspire to make some things more or less likely. But at the end of the day, oftentimes very, 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 very big, very bad decisions. Or if you want a really clear example, Zionism. The decision to choose Palestine as the place to put European Jews after World War II, that actually does trace back to like a couple of meetings. The World Zionist Council and the decisions they made, the British Mandate of Palestine and the arrangements made between the Zionists and the British government. This literally came down to like a couple of people and a couple of decisions. Balfour, yes, thank you. Like it could have been, the world could have been a totally fucking different place, you know? Sometimes it's just that simple. And I'll tell you, man, every time it comes down to one of these people and one of these decisions, they're a member of the capital class. Overwhelmingly. It's every time, man. Every fucking time. It's not regular ass poor people that are making these crazy downhill snowballing. Not to say they don't have an impact, but well. What do I title this? A climate collapse is essentially inevitable at this point. That's true. That's pretty true.
And then, unfortunately, I called Pete, I called General Kane, I called a lot of our great people. We have great people. And I said, let's talk. We got a problem in the Middle East. We have a country known as Iran that for 47 years has been just a purveyor of terror. And they're very close to having a nuclear weapon. We can keep going and get that 50,000 up to 55 and 60 is no end. Or we can take a stop and make a little journey into the Middle East and eliminate a big problem. And Pete, I think you were the first one to speak up. And you said, let's do it, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So we are now
Throw his ass under the bus, King.
having really good discussions.
Toss another one to the
They
wolves.
started last night, a little bit, the night before that. And then unfortunately,
All this for AI Love Island. I saw people posting about that, mostly people on Twitter being like, if you watch this, you're subhuman, which is true. Bizarre AI-generated Fruit Love Island TikTok videos drive massive engagement. It kind of feels like Elsa Gate, but if Elsa Gate was going viral not because toddlers were letting autoplay run amok on the iPads they were given, but rather because people were deliberately seeking it out. The mega-viral AI-generated faux Love Island series follows a group of anthropomorphic fruits with names like Chirita, Bananito, and Strawberryna in a format that matches the original show almost exactly, complete with the show's theme music. Millions are watching food kiss, date, fight, and make up on TikTok. What's Fruit Love Island? It's the world we're building. A new bombshell has entered the villa, and she's a strawberry. It's just another day on Fruit Love Island, an AI-generated series gaining millions of viewers. I have to see... I have to see the TikTok. I have to see what kind of numbers they're pulling. Millions easy? Yeah, what's the account? Is it this? Everything's saying views 0. I don't think it's this. There's a bunch of copycats because it's, you know, it's AI, so it's all fake. They can just do whatever. The account was banned? Wait, really? Why was the account banned? Copyright? Yeah, it might be the copyright music. I don't know.
Welcome back to Fruit Love Island. Some couples are getting... Yeah, I'm not buying it. Mangella is too fucked up in her feelings. No way it works.
Holy shit, this might be better than the actual Love Island. They're allowed to swear here.
Yeah, so we had a deep talk and talked things over, and
I really wish I could see how many views this had in its heyday. You know? Why is there no...
No, what's that? With the AI fruit? No, you're lying. Where did you...
To Fruit Love Island. Partners, one girl. Now that mango bitch is out of the way, are you gonna kiss me or what?
Whoa, slow down. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So the Kiwi boy doesn't want me? Big deal. There's plenty of bitches in
It's the fastest ever growth in TikTok history, apparently. Really? Are there any, like, metrics for that?
See? Honestly, I was thinking about.
Have you been watching these? So you need to find Dave. Let's see. Ready? Gosh, I hope I'm...
Okay, yeah, this must be the actual account because the views are in the tens of millions. It's got to be this one. I thought it was banned.
Welcome back to Fruit Love Island. Now, that last kiss wasn't from your fellow islanders. It was from a bombshell.
It's so funny that for the announcer lady, they have the standard AI text-to-speech voice, you know? I don't know, just, I guess, TikTok's saving me from it, from the cognito hazard.
Last kiss wasn't from your fellow islanders. It was from a bombshell.
What is this? Pomegranate? Dragon fruit? That's got to be dragon fruit, right? Vosh, you have no issue if people enjoy this type of content? I don't... Was there supposed to be a question mark at the end of that? Are you telling me that I don't... I disagree with your assertion. I do think there are problems if you enjoy this, yeah. AI Fruit Love Island breaks records, reaching 3.1 million followers in just 9 days on TikTok. People who enjoy this shouldn't be able to vote unironically. Yeah, that's true. They were right, though, Thana. The majority of people watching this are women, by the way. Where are you getting that from? Where are you? What an insane thing to jump to. I'm almost like I'm in awe. I admire your chauvinism, you know, to see this slop and to be like, but this women like this. It's probably true though. It's probably true. I wouldn't say it, but you're probably correct. Ugh. I bet you men were mostly the ones watching the "Take these chains off and say it again! 6,000 years!" Yeah, that was probably mostly guys.
Welcome to Fruit Love Island, where 8...
So, which one of you is the troublemaker?
I could be. He might not survive both of us.
Oh, this is gonna be messy.
Islanders, it's time for the first coupling ceremony.
Damn, this looks like shit. What's the main issue, though? It's awful to watch, but that's for each person to decide. Can you stop baiting me? I understand what you're trying to do here, okay? But, like, no. Everyone here knows that people who watch this don't deserve life. And it's like everyone here knows that. So why do I need to argue it? $10 million trees got destroyed to make one episode of that. Can I be contrarian for a moment? The thing that pisses me off too is like I actually wish people would stop focusing on the environmental impact of AI because it's really like not that, the water use is not that great, and like the drain to the power is a problem, but it's not like that great. I think the real issue is spiritual. Like, would AI be fine if they found a way of doing it with like basically no electrical footprint? No. It's a spiritual sickness, or I should say it's symptomatic of a spiritual sickness. My hatred of AI has basically nothing to do with the environment, nothing at all. It could help the environment, and I would still hate it. Can you explain your spiritual argument without using the word spirit? Sure. I think that our civilization, not just like the West or whatever, but all human civilization is upkept thanks to virtues that we all represent, I think, that we're all supposed to represent. Things like kindness, generosity, charity, a good work ethic, creativity, an independent spirit, wisdom, whatever you want. There's a bunch of virtues that humans are meant to embody, and the world is better the more of us have them. This is a non-materialist assessment, right? I'm not really talking about like who has the power or who doesn't. I'm just saying that the world is a better place the more people embody these virtues. I think most people would agree with that, right? Most people would agree with that. You said spirit. What did I say? Fucking shut up. Isn't that reactionary coded language? I don't know how. I'm literally saying things like wisdom, charity, and goodness are good things. I don't know what you want from me. It is better the more people are these things and believe these things. And I think that technology like this rapidly depreciates us of all of them, or at least of many of them. I think that this reduces us. I think the problem is that for all of human history, when we produce art, when we produce things, it's a form of communication that's meant to represent or embody those virtues in how we engage with one another. And this removes the communicative element because it is not being produced by humans. It is meant to, it's a simulacrum. It's meant to imitate human production. It's meant to fake, it's meant to lie, but it is not real communication because there is not intent with its delivery. So you are missing out on the point of producing anything, communication, art, whatever else. How does that argument not extend to basically all technology? Because it doesn't. I don't know what you mean. Technology does not, by default, as a necessity, lie and present something as being made through human creativity without having done so. That's just not something technology does, typically. The whole point of AI, and the only thing for which it has been used, is to deceive, like a devil. It deceives people. The whole point of AI is that it's meant to replicate the function and presence and communicative ability of a human. That's it. That's the whole point. That's every function for which it can be used, some version of that. It's a trickery machine. That's not the case for most technology. Therefore, it dilutes the overall conversation. We already live in a world that's just plagued with insincerity, duplicity, scams, nihilism. You're worsening all of that. Oh, now you're telling me that like all the stuff out there is or can be fake, that the people you talk to might be fake, that the friend you've had on Twitter for 6 years might be fake. You could easily maintain a long-time fake persona online. AI companies are already trying to do that, like that god-awful one that's meant to replace a person after they've died. You feed the social media information of a person into an AI bot, and once you pass away, they continue to maintain your social media accounts as though you're still alive. Yeah, Project Lazarus. It degrades the human, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, spirit. When I say spirit, what I mean are like the fundamental moral virtues that we're supposed to embody. The reason we don't talk about it that much is because, you're right, usually reactionaries are the ones with an issue relating to the spirit. The reason for that is because they think things like crime are the product of a spiritual deficit. This is, of course, retarded. This is simply not the case. Crime is a socioeconomic problem. But AI doesn't solve anything. It only produces the spiritual deficiency. So you are making more problems there. You are harming us at a core point. you know? It is decay, right? It's, in that respect, yes, decadent. Do you think the difference between art and AI contact is analogous to the difference between having sex with a partner versus a sex doll? No, because a sex doll isn't literally pantomiming a human. They might look like one, but if you fuck a sex doll, you know it's a sex doll, unless you think it's a human. If it was a sex doll that was indistinguishable from a human in every way and acted like one and you never found out it wasn't a human, yes, then it would be comparable. But I mean, a sex doll is basically just a masturbation aid, so it's not really... What about Blade Runner? What about Blade Runner? Good movie? Yeah, good movie. What do you think will and should be done with AI? Will, it'll ruin the world. Should, it should be banned completely. There should be no AI. Every use of AI for the production of human communication or human-aligned communication should be banned. You should go to jail. All the data centers should be destroyed. I have seen that nuts. So it seems your issue is less AI, generally speaking, and more... Well, AI is like a nonsensical term. It refers to a million things. More machines trying to mimic humans? Yeah, sure. A non-sentient entity, a fake, a computer program, acting as though it's a human, thereby diluting the amount of genuine, legitimate content out there. You know, it's like how the internet's 80% bots or whatever. It's a real problem. It's not good that on the internet, and I guess now in the real world to an extent too, because the internet kind of is real life now that all of our fucking banking info's on there. The majority of traffic is being done by people trying to imitate, or sorry, bots trying to imitate people. That's probably not good. Thoughts on Detroit becoming human? Well, in Detroit Become Human, they were clearly sentient, you know? So it's not, I don't think it has anything to do with anything. LLMs are not sentient. They're fucking fill-in-the-blank machines. They're predictive text machines. The robots in Detroit Become Human were clearly sentient. What if AI/robots bring about a post-scarcity robo-communism world? Dude, that's crazy. What if pedophiles made all food and energy free? You're anti-pedophilia? Okay. Well, what if when a significant enough % of the world becomes them, what if all of a sudden all energy becomes free? I don't know, man. I guess if that ever happens, I'll think about it. I don't know if that's gonna happen. A friend of mine's currently dealing with finding out their fiance was secretly talking to a girlfriend AI. Oh, that's fucking rough. That's really rough. Kill myself? Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Low-key worse than cheating? It kind of is, because from the perspective of the person with the AI girlfriend, they are cheating because they're treating it like a sentient entity. So the intent to cheat is identical in both cases, but with the AI example, you have the added factor that it's fucking AI. So you're doing it for a fucking ChatGPT. Why? Like that, it seems much more insulting, you know? I feel like you inherently value human interaction and human-produced art and demean AI products. That's true. I also think that good things are good and bad things are bad. I like ice cream, and I hate, I don't know, white phosphorus being dropped on children's hospitals. I guess. I mean, it's true. It is true. I do like ice cream more than the white phosphorus hospital bombings. In my opinion. I do hate Hitler. Does seem like he was a pretty bad guy. I've never met him, but he seems like he was a pretty bad guy. Your cat wants attention? I know. Bagheera, why don't you ever actually come in here if you want attention? Your lovely parent and my partner's not going to be back for a bit. Why not come in here? Cats are so woman-coded. True. That's fucking facts. She wants your undivided attention. Okay, well, frankly, she already gets a lot of it. Fruit Love Island. Does she have a place to lay nearby? Yeah, but she's not that kind of cat. She doesn't want to come over here and like lay on a pillow or whatever. She wants to come over here and rub her face against my leg until I pick her up and shake her like this, which, you know, I do pretty often. Every day, I do. Have you tried a shock collar? You shouldn't claim it can't make new art because it can with certain spaces already, and whatever your opinions of its output now clearly will surpass it in weeks. For one, the idea that AI will surpass itself is kind of dated now that the LLMs have already incorporated basically all available information on the internet. They don't seem to be getting better. There was a range of time where they were getting better, now they're not. And also, art, as far as I'm concerned, requires communication and intent. AI has neither. I think colloquially people agree with this, by the way. People will say that a sunset is beautiful, but people don't usually say a sunset is a work of art. They might say that like colloquially, they might make an expression of it, but I think people would acknowledge there's a difference between like a beautiful vista and a painting, right? One of them, both are beautiful, but one is constructed with intent. A human produces a painting to convey information, whereas a vista is just, I mean, it's very beautiful, but it's kind of just the product of cosmic circumstance, you know? This is ignoring God's paintbrush. That is true. If you think that God created everything, that you might say that it's a work of art from his perspective. And I think that'd be valid, at least within my definition of art, but I don't believe that. So either way, it affirms my point, because then the intent of God is what you're referring to. Even if an artist paints a nice painting without trying to communicate it, it's still meaningful to me that a human painted it. There's no way to avoid communication. Everything you do, every step you take, every breath, every movement of your eyes, all of it communicates something. You could watch a person move silently for a minute and write 1,000 words of it. There's the intent, the decision making is what you're responding to. Every move you make, I'll be watching you. But the same can't really be said about the, I guess, the wind blowing through trees, because there's no intent there. No one's making a decision. The wind blows because hot air moves through, you know, the sun heats the sky, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's a byproduct of cosmic circumstance. You could say that art exists as a kind of downstream. This is semiotics, right? To an extent, yeah. You could argue that art can exist downstream of intent. Like, for example, I think you could fairly say that a dirty alleyway full of trash bags can be a kind of art piece. Now, if you took a photo of that, you would say the photo is art. But is the alleyway itself art? Humans built the alley, built the buildings next to it to frame the alley, and humans put the trash bags there. Was there intent in the creation of this piece? not in the piece as a whole, but the individual elements were the products of intent. And if you were to look at the alley as a work of art, you could think of it as a consequence of a bunch of intents put together, a kind of patchwork, you know? I think that's fair. You can feel that way about a city. It's kind of like a, what is it called? What is it called in Disco Elysium? When you can hear the city, shivers, right? You can think of it like that a little bit, you know, not an individual intent, but rather like a sum of intents that you appreciate as a collective work, which I do think that, you know, art is just communication and communication is art. How is a prompt not intent? Because LLMs are a black box. The way they transcribe your prompt into a piece at the end, it's not really up to you to determine, you know? You're just at the whim of an autocomplete machine. You don't know the priorities or parameters. It's like you're kind of like you're feeding a prompt in at one end, and the machine removes intent from it by degrading the directness of the relationship between the input and the output. It's not just using a tool, right? You can use a tool. Everyone uses tools. This is a tool. This is a tool, you know. But I use them with intent. I know what they do. I not only do I know what they do, I know specifically what the outcome will be in their implementation. But the AI is just designed to eradicate that. So art is about granularity of control? Yeah, well, to an extent, communication is. You know, for sure, 100%. Yeah, the clearer the communication, I think the more direct the art. And if the communicative intent is eroded beyond perception, then yeah, I'd say, you know, like you could argue that a beautiful vista is art because like one tree in the vista was planted 200 years ago by a human deliberately, not to make that scene, but rather because they wanted to plant that tree. And I guess to an extent there's intent there, but man, the gulf between the initial intent and the totality of the outcome is enormous. So no, I would say, yeah, like the closer you are to the source of communication, the more artful it is. And that's not even getting into the fact that AI is duplicitous, right? The whole like faking humanity as an element of its design. Humans are the whim of deterministic forces. Intent does not really exist. Okay, fucking edgy ass middle schooler. Free will is an illusion. I don't care. You act as though it exists. You chose to type that out. So you don't believe in found art? It depends on what you're finding, I guess. Curation is a kind of art? Sure, because you're curating. Likewise, you could make art from AI if you took bits of stuff made through AI and then made art with that. Like some weird collage of Fruit Love Island characters or whatever. You know? In that case, you're just using it as a source for communication. You'd be making a point. There'd be intent there. And there are artists who do that? Yeah, of course. If I prompt an AI with a clear intent for an end product, I still can't see the distinction. That's because intent doesn't have to be conscious. Like there's intent in every breath you take. It's literally a subconscious act, but you're still doing it. Intent, it's the machine here, what you do. You're adding noise to the equation. Art being hand-drawn doesn't implicitly make it not slop. I can draw bullshit. Sure, but I'm not talking about slop. I'm talking about intent. If you draw bullshit, there's still human intent there. Everyone agrees with this, by the way, right? That's why we frame on our fridge the drawings made by 3-year-old children, but we wouldn't like just make a random LLM ChatGPT Grok prompt that looks better at the outcome and then put that on our fridge. We know the meaning is in the person who made it. We know that. We all know this, and we act this way too. In my opinion, you need to be a genuine psychopath. And I mean this. This is not a little turn of phrase. I'm not trying to do a bit or whatever. I think there has to be something wrong with you. Like, you should be institutionalized. If you think that a drawing made by your 3-year-old child is exactly as valuable to an AI prompt that produced the same outcome. If you think that there's no distinction that a human made something, that your child made something, we're not even talking about whether it's art, but like, is there meaning in it having been made by them versus it just being the product of a random number generator making something that's visually identical but not produced by your kid? If you think there's no difference, I think that you're less of a person than me. And I mean that. I genuinely mean that. To me, there's a kind of desoulment you've already been subjected to, and I think the life you've led must be wretched for you to have so low an opinion of humans and of what humans offer and what you offer others. You know, if you think that all the productions of your life, your miraculous consciousness, could be reduced merely to the pixels on a screen or the atoms of graphite, of carbon on a piece of paper, that there was nothing meaningful about your intent or your decision to commit to paper those strokes of the pencil, then I think you're desouled to an extent. My friend's fallen down the AI hole, literally unfriended me over expressing takes similar to yours. He's spending more time with his AI than his 4 kids. What an awful person. It seems like they're mentally ill. I have to assume mental illnesses. There's something wrong with your friend's brain. It might be over. I'm sorry, that's just my honest opinion. AI can't make art because it can't think. Even animals can make art because they think. Animal art is very fascinating, yeah. 100%. What looks good to an elephant? Can you hear Bagheera in the background, by the way? She's yowling her damn head off. How am I supposed to get anything done? What is the difference apart from the sentimental value that my kid made this? That's the difference. Because the kid sure as shit didn't have any communication in mind? Yes, they did. Yeah, they did. 100% they did. The communication isn't just your intent. It's what you do. Even little tiny dumb babies have intent. There is something magical and distinct about consciousness that separates us from non-conscious things. It is a fundamental difference that we have not yet crossed technologically. Maybe one day we will. And when we do, we won't know it because we can't define consciousness. But it's something that we animals have, humans, dogs, birds, bugs, we have that the rest of the universe doesn't. And it's a meaningful difference. A child taking in stimuli and producing a piece of art is the same process of an LLM. You win it, Chatter. That was the bait of the day. Now let's find out what the award for that one is. Oh! Sorry. The wheel, it spins. Bait of the day. No, it's a distinguished honor. You know, I try not to ban too often. Hollow perf. Let's see what the win what our lucky winner today gets. Their prize. How long was that ban for? Just 30 days. Are your cat's noises art? You know, cats meow to imitate the noises that humans make. They're trying to communicate to you. If you have a pet cat, their meows take on a different tenor depending on whether or not they think you're listening. It's kind of cute. They are literally trying to communicate with you. Admittedly, they're cats, so they're dumb. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think consciousness is kind of magic. It's the closest thing we know of to magic. We've figured out pretty much everything else. We still don't know why we have thoughts. We haven't figured that out yet. Have a bit of reverence for it, you know? Cats do have accents, that's true. Every cat meow is a work of art. Sorry, homie, I'm a materialist. There ain't no magic here. You're using the wrong term. You're a physicalist. And you can be a physicalist while acknowledging that we don't yet have a physical explanation for, well, you might also be a materialist, a physical explanation for consciousness. We just don't. We don't. Philosophers haven't figured it out yet. Maybe one day they will. Buddhists figured this out? Yeah. The question earlier was really depressing. Well, often the greatest advocates for AI have a very, very low opinion of humans, which is unfortunate. Isn't the biological point of consciousness to be aware of oneself and the surroundings to not die? Sure, but plants do that. Sunflowers turn to face the sun, you know? Reaction to stimuli, it's practiced by not just conscious things, just anything that's alive, really. Consciousness is special. We're a little bit past that, and nobody really knows why. Nobody knows at what point in consciousness, at what point you start to think to yourself, you know? What we do know is that the line might be lower than we think. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees, maybe you don't, like cats and dogs have an inner monologue. It's a very simple one, but they do. They 100% do. You just have to interact with them for a bit. They obviously are thinking. They're not just like a spontaneous reaction to environmental stimuli. Pigs, cows, yeah, the personalities, they make friends. They have different opinions on this or that, you know. They do think. Birds do. We know birds do. Likely, you know, even insects do. Some reptiles do. But we don't know where the line is or what it really means. And nobody knows. You know, nobody really knows. My cats just sleep all day. Those MFs aren't thinking. It's their prerogative.
Illinois, it's time to build. Rent is too high and owning a home is too far out of reach. One of the solutions is clear. We need to make it easier to build more homes. We want to cut the red tape, streamline permitting for home builders, and modernize building codes. That's not all. We want to use more of the empty housing stock we already have. Those historic 3 flats in our state, they're coming back. Apartments above garages, let's let people rent them out. If we just use the homes already in existence but currently unused, we can provide tens of thousands of new homes across Illinois. We can do this. Let's get to work.
I do hope that we need to have more of a national conversation around zoning. Zoning, build codes, they're so shit. We need to deregulate the fuck out of municipal zoning. It's so fucking you know there are cities out there that have essentially no zoning. Just like none. Like very, very, very minimal. Like the industrial zone is that away from like the water and the residential zoning. That's it. And then they build like beautiful, beautiful cities. Oh yeah, isn't LA one of those cities? Fuck no. LA zoning map. Something like 80% of LA is zoned exclusively for single family housing. It's a fucking nightmare. Behold. Oh, let me find this. Behold. Zoning in LA County. So yeah. As you can see. Drives me up the goddamn wall. Oh, yellow? Yellow is single family residential, by the way. You can't even like have a small corner store? Yes, that is correct. So for essentially the entire stretch of the Hollywood Hills, separating Los Angeles proper from the Valley. Sorry, I do consider it LA proper versus the Valley. With the exception of these tiny little, not even these, because these are multifamily residential. You can't build a goddamn thing. Huge chunks of the Valley are just nothing. And even then, all you get are these stupid little fucking corner lots. You know what? You've seen these in American cities everywhere you drive past, and then there's like a little corner lot with a Thai food store and a massage parlor that gets no customers, and like a mattress place that looks like it's on the brink of shutting down, and then a place that actually is shut down. Where's my... Oh, yeah, we can't even take a look at my fucking neighborhood. Beverly Hills and West Hollywood are carved out. They're not part of the proper zoning map. Beverly Hills zoning map, West Hollywood. It's unimpressive, by the way, the Beverly Hills zoning map, in case you were wondering. There we go. At least we have apartments here. Is that where the Iranian diaspora is? Yes. Look at all this. Look at all of this zoning distinction, even within the very small city of Beverly Hills. Look at this. R1, R1.x, R1.5, R1.5x2, R1.6, R1.7, R1.8, all for single-family residential. These are all legal subdivisions to meticulously and precisely describe exactly what kind of single-family house is allowed there. And this is just in the city of Beverly Hills. Look at how small Beverly Hills is. This is how small Beverly Hills is. It's just this. Just walk right across it. And then the hills itself. These are where I say I'm from Beverly Hills. This is where people assume I'm from, right over here. This whole area. The hills. What's even the point of that? I don't know. I assume it has something to do with wanting the world to end. God, that sounds nice, Masaigo. It's because of racism? It usually is, yeah. This is the Santa Monica Boulevard line, right here. Everything north of it is in the hills properly. All these places. So these houses down here, where I'm circling my mouse, around 1.5 to 2 million. These ones around here, between like 6 to 10 million. These ones over here, some of these, like Jeff Bezos lives here, you know, it's like that kind of neighborhood. It's like 20, 50 million, any amount of money, basically. It's insane how much California at large has squandered its perfect climate, massive economy. Yeah, that's true. California should have a population of 200 million. Not even remotely joking, by the way. 200 million might be underselling it. You could transplant the population density of the Chinese seaboard over into California, and it would be like it would be the most powerful place on earth. Money, culture, it would have everything. One day. Does anyone go there just to do property damage? Into the hills? Good fucking luck. Ugh. Do you think the grid layout is soulless, or does it not really matter? No, grid layouts can be good. Grid layouts can 100% be good. I think that, okay, perfect grids that stretch on for too long feel weird and are kind of alienating, especially in low-density neighborhoods where it's just flat nothingness forever. But suburban curves are freakish, inefficient. They lead to a waste of space, and they often lead to overly wide roads. You want to mix them up. You have grid blocks, and then every once in a while you have a reorientation of the grid, you know? Think of it like rotating it on a 90-degree axis, or maybe like a big circular area, or like a boulevard that kind of grows out and then stops, and that way you get the logistical benefit of grids, but then every once in a while you get like a centerpiece to break it up. I think that's basically the best way to build a city. I mean, if you take a look at the city map of Paris, which is considered by many to be like one of the best designed cities in the world. And I agree with that based on what I've heard. I haven't been there. But if you take a look, Paris's map is made up of lots of, they're not exactly grids. This isn't like a street map. Let me just go to Google Maps. That'll be a perfectly fine way. We don't need to look at zoning. We just need to look at the actual street layout. If we go over to, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, if we go over here, you see like a you see order and chaos kind of like maintained. You have big boulevards, very orderly, like this, you know, like the streets that continue down a long way. But then you have these like jagged connections, like here, where things truncate and then cut off kind of abruptly. DC was built with France in mind. Paris was what they had in mind when they built like the central promenade of DC. I think this is a lovely way to build a city. You get benefits to efficiency and development and density, but you also get this like personal neighborhood feel, you know? Like I could go to a random part of Paris. I've never been to Paris. I don't know which parts are famous and which parts aren't. But if you go over here, I'm just random place. Wow, perfect example. Look at that. You get a big continuity. You look straight down the boulevard. You feel like you're in a city. But it doesn't just carry off into the infinite horizon because another building over there cuts it off. So you get like a nice mile or two of clarity, but then you feel enclosed. And I would bet, having not been here, I would bet you feel very cozy walking around here. The ratio is perfect. The width of the street, the height of the buildings, you feel like you're a perfect little encompassed, like a little, you're like a little peanut in a shell, you know? Look at that. Oh, so cozy looking. I'll get to the Texas grid thing in just a second, guys. Do they have a maximum height, a building height maximum in Paris like DC? Yes. Perfect. It's beautiful. See? Long boulevard, and then eventually you hit a stop. It makes you feel enclosed, but you're still in a very dense, very walkable city. It's lovely. This is just a random street. I don't know. Is this a famous street? I don't know. It's just a random street. The random street. I'll do one more. Okay, this one's a quieter residential. And still, beautiful. See? You look down the boulevard, you get the feeling you're in a big city right there. Or you look down the street, you get that continuity. No trees. I think there aren't trees because there's like no place for them, kind of. I don't know. Maybe there should be. I'm not talking about the trees. I'm talking about layout, city design, okay? There are some trees. There's some trees this way. There's a tree. Using boulevard wrong? I'm sorry, I'm using boulevard wrong. There. Boulevard, trees. There. It's Paris. It's a mega city, okay? Give it a break. DC is built, oh, did I lose myself? Oh, there's Washington. Yeah. DC is built similarly, where you have these grids that are broken up. See? DC is not as nice as Paris, but you do still have the same basic principle. Meant to convey, what's the point of height maximums? Convey cohesion across the city. Keep, like, zoning in line. DC has a height maximum, but it's also for security reasons. Boston's also kind of built like this, right? Yeah, most, like, East Coast cities that were built by the founding fathers and the people around that time, yes. Or like the early English settler cities, yeah. They're built like this. Check out Tokyo is crazy. We've looked at Tokyo many times. Also, I remember you were pro AI. Shut the fuck up. Now contrast with LA. Well, LA is like the toxic grid. If you just look at Wilshire at any point, if you go on Wilshire, we've looked at Wilshire before, but if you look at, there's Third, so there's Wilshire. Yeah, if you just go onto Wilshire, it's like oh wait, no, sorry, that's not Wilshire. That's like a fucking strip mall next to it or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. See? Because the line never it never stops. It's never cut off at any point. You just get this weird, like, open emptiness. It's also a Strode, but, like, even if this was a narrower road, I think there's something very unsettling about a road that continues to the horizon. You're in a major city. You're in a major city. I don't think the road should... Oh, maybe I forgot Grey Ghost. I don't know. There probably used to be streetcars down the middle of that. Streetcars can turn. It doesn't need to look like this. Well, that's a kind of zoning that I'm in favor of, a Soggy Nymph. But most zoning, I think, is dog shit. I love jerking off my state when I can. Portland is a beautiful city, yes. At least the nice part of Portland. There are parts of Portland that suck, but that's the case for all American cities. The nice parts of Portland are, in fact, very nice. Yeah. In my opinion, the nice parts of Portland are better than the nice parts of Seattle. But I do prefer Seattle overall. But not by a huge amount. Portland's great. A refinery in Port Arthur, Texas exploded. Yes, I've heard. Okay. Mossad? Massive explosion at the Valero oil refinery in Port Arthur, Texas sends towering clouds of black smoke and intense flames. One of America's largest oil refineries. 1/3 of a million barrels per day. Huh. Iran sends their regards. It would be funny as fuck if it was an IRGC plant. Probably not, though. Is this the false flag Trump promised? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the media reacts to it. If it is a false flag, then the media and Trump's administration are going to start screaming that Iran did it. So if they do that, then I would say false flag. That being said, it could also just be a part of the general infrastructural decline that we've been talking about, you know? Oil refineries are just like bridges. They're big, expensive, and they take a lot of people and money to maintain. And, you know, often that doesn't happen. Yeah, I would assume that there's nothing suspicious going on here until somebody tries to make a narrative out of it. Let me see. The Valero Port Arthur Authority. Refinery. Are they known for anything in particular? They focus on diversity, inclusion, and talent development, so there's that. Valero Port Arthur Refinery. Sellers? Buyers? Is there like a particular fucking Lockheed plant they tend to... Let me see. Pre-authorized sellers. Let's see if there's any... Yeah, I don't see anything. I don't know. Port Arthur Refinery. Let's see. Wikipedia page. Wah, wah, wah. Apparently Israel gets a lot of what's made there, but who knows if that's true? I don't know if that's true. I'm a little bit skeptical of that claim, but it could be true. Initially, the crude process came from Saudi Arabia, but it's since expanded to work in other countries based on where the oil is available. Saudi Aramco took over as the sole owner of the facility. Jesus Christ. 4 years after Port Arthur underwent its $10 billion expansion, making the facility the largest producer of gasoline, diesel, and other petroleum products in the U.S., Saudi Arabia-based Saudi Aramco took over as sole owner of the facility. News orgs had reported that Shell and Aramco's joint business venture began to unravel shortly after the multi-billion-dollar facility expansion. Seeing reporting that the fire was caused by some kind of industrial heater malfunction. Okay.
President Trump is doing, not only in Memphis, not only in Washington, D.C., but all over the country, ultimately, it will save and is saving tens of thousands of American lives. It is, I'll use that word again, what President Trump has done on border security and public safety is a national miracle that will be studied not only for generations, but for centuries to come. Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you, Steve.
Did you see that did you see that video of the deep sigh that he did before he had to say all this? Like the his like, you know, that like resigned, all right, time to suck off grandpa again. Show it. Hold on, I think I retweeted it. Yeah. Funny as fuck.
Iran's missile capabilities were also growing so fast that it would soon have become virtually impossible to stop them. Once they have a missile, once they have what they were building.
I think this was shortly after, actually, because Trump would have given the speech afterwards. I don't know. Just that resigned, like, yeah, defeated, like, okay, I guess this is my life now.
So, Cash, see if you can top that. I don't know. That's a tough one, Cash.
That is tough. You know, Mr. President, as I look around this venue, I see, and I'm reminded again, why we have the greatest warriors on God's green earth, the men and women serving in uniform, the men and women serving and wearing the badge, and law enforcement, our police, our sheriffs around the state of Tennessee. I'm reminded that Americans exist to protect this country day in and day out, and they've done it like we've done it here. But what we didn't have was you. We didn't have a commander-in-chief who backed the blue, who resourced the blue, who funded the military, who did whatever it takes to safeguard every single life. And here in Memphis, Tennessee, you have put on a show for the world. You have allowed us to go out there and capture gangbangers, rapists, murderers, drug dealers at record historic levels. And for me, a first-generation Indian-American kid.
This is so pathetic. It makes me wonder if the generals in North Korea, like, how do they talk to Kim? You know what I mean? It makes me wonder. It makes me, like, behind closed doors, is it more real talk? I wonder. I really do.
Whose parents flooded genocide in East Africa to become the 9th director of the FBI. I'm living the wildest dream you could possibly imagine, sir, but it's thanks to you. But more importantly, what I see when I look out across our great partners here in the interagency and our great legislatures and our great prosecutors and our great attorney general who has the guts to go out there and make arrests, turn them into prosecutions and put people in prison, you are giving that dream to every single child in the state of Tennessee. You are inspiring the nation and law enforcement to come up and wear the badge and wear the colors of this country and safeguard our men and women for generations to come. This is an enduring mission, Mr. President, because you have made it enduring. It is going to go on for generations to come. They are going to try to achieve what you accomplished here, what Stephen said, in just one short year, and they're going to be doing it for decades because America was smart enough to elect you as our commander-in-chief. So while we're out there fighting for the dreams of our children, just know, Mr. President, how many millions of dreams like mine are going to be lived thanks to your brilliant leadership. Mr. President, thanks for delivering America the safest country on God's green earth.
Thank you very much.
How is he still breathing? Well, he was told by Trump to top that.
This venue, I see.
So, Cash, see if you can top that. I don't know. That's a tough one, Cash.
That is tough. You know, Mr. President, as I look around.
So embarrassing to do this to a crowd. They got a gun under the table? Nah, these people have always been shameless their whole lives. The myth that the strong have strong characters has always just been that, a myth. In reality, powerful, sociopathic, wealthy people have always been conniving little suck-ups, craven, soulless, without pride, no personal convictions or morals, will do anything, absolutely anything. No, there's the myth of like, oh, well, these are like strong, uncompromising people. It's just not true. It's never been like that. Never, ever, ever been like that. Yeah, worthless sycophants. Dog, how the fuck is it 6 p.m.? I guess I started pretty late. I gotta go do stuff though. Well, I don't know how many segments I got done today. I have really no idea. I have no clue. Houston doesn't have zoning laws and it's still a shithole. I don't want no zoning laws. I just want mass dezoning. You gotta fix that shit, Delinka, M.A. Sources tell me segments were made. Maybe. That might be true. That might be true. I think I'm going to read donations tomorrow. I kind of didn't realize how much time had passed. That's on me. I started late today. I had some stuff to do early in the morning. I should be here tomorrow, I think. In the meantime, I don't know. God bless Iran in their quest to save all of us from what would otherwise be a borderline inevitable nuclear holocaust perpetuated by Israel and backed by the United States. And yeah, keep an eye on those oil futures, you know. Eventually that shit's going to rubber band back. It's going to whoop right back. Everyone take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Mm-hmm.